We're back, baby. Let's go. Let's blast off. Let's do it. Let's post and bring the people in, and let's get it going. Let's get it twisted. Okay. Okay. But yeah, it was a totally reasonable suspension. Okay. I'm not even going to act like it was not a totally reasonable suspension. Okay. It's just the truth. Like, my favorite part about Hassan being banned from Twitch isn't that anyone reporting on it has to admit that a sitting Republican senator oversaw perhaps the biggest Medicare fraud in history. It's so beautiful. It's probably an inside job. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, you know? It's just like, it was a perfectly valid banning. Call Lolo, he's crying. Yo, he sent me a voice note immediately and was like flexing on me, saying, I can help you prepare your unemployment documents. This man is my biggest hater, okay? Alexander Lol Overruled is my biggest hater. Do you understand? This guy, straight up, this dude, my Insta hater. Also, I'm joking. That's my friend, for those of you who don't know. But yeah, the ban was also worthy because now a lot more people know of the fraud that bullfuck did. I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. All right. It is what it is. We got a lot to talk about today, aside from my fake ban, phony ban. I'm acquitted. We're back. Ladies and gentlemen, believe me, we're back. We are so back. I'm apolitical now. I think Donald Trump is great. He's the best. We got so much to talk about with respect to tariffs. We have, like, there's so much that I was going to talk about yesterday in terms of what happened, like how excited I was about the Northernland winning the Oscars. Me and Noah were sitting around waiting for this. Not even until the last moment. I just did not think I did not think that they would win. Like, I just don't think that at all. I just didn't have any hope that they would win, and I was so excited that they did. But yeah. Here, we'll look at this Fox News article because it's amazing. Left-wing streamer walks back comment about killing Rick Scott following Twitch suspension. At least he's saying, like, urging Republicans to kill Senator Rick Scott. Like, even Fox News is, like, more honest than my freaking dumbass haters on Reddit. Anyway, after getting suspended from Twitch, a popular video live streaming service, Piker's statement came during the stream, in which he reacted to the interview for House Speaker Mike Johnson, who discussed measures to carve out waste, fraud, and abuse within Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I'm sorry. It was worth. It's worth. They are trying to cut recipients. Fraud is not happening at the point of the recipient. If you cared about Medicare fraud or Medicaid fraud, you would bleep Rick Scott, he said. That is cinema. The streamer noted that Columbia HCA was fined over $1.7 billion when Scott was the CEO of the healthcare company following an investigation into its Medicare billing. This is Fox News. This is on Fox News. I'll take it. I'll take the ban, baby. I'll eat it. Whew. On Fox News. Twitch did not provide a specific reason for the suspension, although the timing of the violation and Piker's ensuing expose suggests that the above comments pushed the platform to act. This is Piker's 5th Twitch suspension. On Monday afternoon, Piker apologized, telling his social media followers, I'm sorry. I'll choose my words carefully next time and say, if Mike Johnson cares about Medicare fraud, since he wants to cut $800 million from Medicare, Medicaid, which was $800 billion, by the way, he'd call for max punishment for current Florida GOP Senator, former Governor Rick Scott, who has done the most Medicare fraud in U.S. history, he continued. 5 minutes later, Piker addressed his critics. Big shout out to the right-wing free speech lovers who took time out of their day to screaming about DEI and immigrants to cry about this, he wrote on X. Hassan Twitch didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Senator Ed Markey, who influenced the nonpartisan audience. Piker was a following of Twitch over 2.8 million and previously raised more than 1 million for Palestinian aid, has used his platform millions of followers to downplay and justify terrorist attacks such as October 7 and 9/11 as acts of resistance in recent years. I've never said 9/11 was an act of resistance. Okay, that inappropriate, but you know, I'll let it slide. It's Fox News. Come on. During a 2019 live stream, Piker praised the brave effing soldier who wounded conservative Representative Dan Crenshaw while he was deployed to Afghanistan as a Navy SEAL, asking, didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because of some bleep? bleep, 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 bleep. I was banned for that, so we're going to move on. He went on to say, America deserved 9/11. I'm saying it before later, walking it back and saying it was inappropriate. Piker raised $100K for charity on Saturday alongside the creators of No Other Land, a film co-directed by Palestinian and Israeli filmmakers. The film won the Oscar for the best documentary the following day. One note, we'd have almost no violence if the libs would just leave. Yeah. By the way, liberals on there, I will point to this as well. Liberals like Ethan Klein, Sex Pestiny, and their fucking weirdo audiences and Asmongold's audience will regularly say Rashid al-Haddad is a Houthi, but even Fox News, because it's still a news outlet, will be like, it's just, they won't say he's a Houthi. They'll say he's a Houthi sympathizer. They won't say he's a Houthi. I wonder why. Perhaps it's because, you know, there are still in the absolute worst news outlet, like Fox News, especially on their objective news reporting side, which can still be very biased, there is still a quality assurance that they have to abide by. They still have standards that they have to abide by versus a dumbass online content creator, myself included, can say whatever the hell they want and actively lie about things. And then their idiotic fan base will also chirp about it over and over again. But yeah, considering that Fox is constantly under tremendous scrutiny and targeted with lawsuits, they obviously have to be a little bit more careful about the way that they cover stuff. And also, they want to maintain some kind of standards so they can look like an objective news outlet. There's a singular difference. Fox News wants to scandalize their audience by reminding them of you interacting with liberals in Congress. These YouTubers want to permanently get rid of you and deplatform you. Yeah. Did Fox ask you for a response? No. But they might have reached out to my management and I just didn't see it. But it's all good. Can you make some predictions about Trump's incoming speech? I mean, yeah, easy peasy. I'm the greatest president of all time. I saved America. It's actually good that egg prices are so high because it's patriotic. And measles outbreaks seemingly just happen. And the planes are actually falling because the planes are actually falling out of the sky. And that's a good thing because the more planes fall, the less likelihood 9/11 can happen again. Think. I'm making the planes fall because if they don't fall, what if they do a 9/11? But this time they do it on a different month. We don't want it. We don't want to do it, folks. Also, 9/11 DEI, 17 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi. None of them were white men. DEI is the reason why 9/11 happened. DEI equals die. Think. Dude, I'm so good at being apolitical. It's crazy. I'm so good at being apolitical. It's crazy. I love being apolitical, dog. Yeah, vaccines make you gay. They make you gay and autistic. They make you the most autistic anyone's ever seen before. New York City, so flat. The only thing that can stop a plane is a tower. New York City, so flatland, just like Ukraine. Only thing that can stop a bullet is a body, is a human body. New York, so flat. Anyway, bro, you trying to get banned again? I mean, I'm not. It's like very obviously I'm joking, okay? It's very clearly a joke, okay? Stop worrying about me getting banned, okay? Please. Guys. Elon Musk made comedy legal, okay? Elon Musk made comedy legal, folks. You can say the R word again. Dark MAGA. Dark MAGA. USA. I got to put the fucking Trump hat on. Hold on. Sorry. I can't. I keep forgetting that I can't be saying these things as without the MAGA hat on. USA. USA. You're feeling pretty goofy today? I am. Hassan Piker banned from Twitch after threatening Rick Scott. Come on, Newsweek. That's crazy. That's crazy that Newsweek did me like this. I thought we were cool, Newsweek. Can you wear it like Elon does? No one can wear it like Elon does, okay? The hat is a free pass for racism and misogyny. No, if you put this hat on, you can literally be like, I think Russia is awesome. You can say whatever you want, and people will be like, oh, that's a patriot. You know how like sometimes people will say stuff on Twitter that is like very clearly reactionary, but they'll say it in like a woke way, like the wokely arguing against like miscegenation, for example. You know what I mean? Or wokely saying something like, I saw a tweet about this earlier. Actually, I'm gonna point to this because it's relevant. It's Oscars related. Hold on, I'll give it to you exactly what I mean here. Hold on, one second. Yeah, this is like when people say stuff like, "Poor things in Honora winning are signs of conservatism and misogyny making a comeback." By the way, okay, like people saying like Honora is a male gaze and misogynistic. Actually, it's like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? Please stop. Okay, this is like wokely being like, you can't have any. You literally cannot cover sex workers from the perspective of sex workers, right? Like, so leftists do this as well. They do like unironically reactionary commentary, but with like woke language. And right wingers also do this in the opposite direction all the dang time. Okay, they get to say whatever they want. They can say like unironically anti-imperialist speech, and people will turn around. Biggest relevant dig under Honora is the director's subs to Libs of TikTok. No, I don't think they sub to Libs of TikTok. I think they follow Libs of TikTok. But like Republicans will come out and be like, Republicans will come out and unironically be like pro bricks and stuff. You know what I mean? Like some of them will turn around and say stuff like they love bricks, but also simultaneously will be like patriotic about it. And it's always so funny to me. Like, I don't understand how they get to do that. Like, why is that allowed? Why can't I be like, hey, I think that a ceasefire should happen in Ukraine, and people will be like, you're Adolf Hitler. I hate you. You should kill yourself. And then Tucker Carlson gets to literally be like, Stalin built incredible metro stations, and also Russia has never done anything wrong. And then every Republican turns around and eats it up. And they're like, that's a brave patriot right there. He is patriotically defending Russia. It pisses me off, man. I'm jealous. I'm actually jealous. Like, why can't I offer any bit of nuance in terms of American foreign policy being, kind of bad and kind of mean to people? Okay. But they get to say whatever they want, and they're still on board. What is this? Finally changing your mind? I don't think you understand. Honora being conservative is a golden reach? Yeah, no. I don't care that Sean Baker follows questionable Hosmer accounts. Sean Baker also probably is like kind of into the Red Scare style dime square shit, but Honora was good. It banged. I liked it a lot. Also, Mikey Madison is what a babe. Okay, I'm sorry. That was, I mean, it was good. It was good. You got to have a movie like that. You got to have some movies like that. It was a good movie. I felt like I said this at the time when I watched it. It was one of the few Oscars awards nominated movies that I actually watched, but it was good. It was a good. I can't wear this fucking hat like Elon Musk, dude. It's so embarrassing. I don't know how he does that. Asman Malding so hard right now because of your unbanned. Wait, I thought he was a Mr. Free Speech. I don't understand. What? So banned because gay? Yeah. Follows mean nothing, chat. I follow a bunch of people as well. Okay. A German film critique said Honora is a movie Marx would have liked a lot. Why? Because he's also a gooner. Is that what it is? Okay, we're not going to talk about Sean Baker and the Honora controversy. Okay, that's not. There's so much to cover, chat. I'm sorry. There was a lot of funny memes I saw as well. W Homies from Crash Dummies Pod. Oh yeah. Crash Dummies Pod is I love them. It was amazing. I did an episode with them as well. That's supposed to come out. And the Fear End episode came out with the Crash Dummies podcast. It was hilarious. That's right, baby. Can you cover the bad empanada situation? I don't know what happened. Dune was robbed. I really like Dune, but a lot of people whose opinion I respect in terms of movies, because I'm not like a big movie guy, they didn't like Dune as much. But also, simultaneously, Will and I watched it together, and we were nutting the entire time. Like, we literally, it was me, Nandre, and Will at the movie theater, just going crazy every time it went. We would also go, like, we would be also losing our minds and making those noises as well. You can't nut in the theater? That's what you think. Oh, also, Noah Colwyn and I sat together. We sat our white asses down and we watched The Order, which I thought was pretty good. I don't know if it was up for any Oscars or anything like that, but I thought it was pretty good. And also, holy moly, Slime and B, thank you for the 100 gifted. Yeah, I lost a lot of subscribers. Holy moly, Jesus Christ. One day. I don't know why. I don't know why it works like that. You just, because it's back-to-back 2 days in a row where I wasn't streaming. When is Noah coming on the stream? Noah is, for yesterday and today, Noah's doing a guest lecture at UCLA. And then after that, he's going to be here. So he'll be here every single day after that. And I'm very stoked. Resubs can't happen if the channel doesn't exist during a ban. Yeah, that's probably what it is, right? I got cleaned out, dude. What's the story with the hat, brother? It's because I'm apolitical. No, not Noah, the weather agency. Have you seen this clip of the Crash Dummies pod? Yeah, I mean, this is an old clip from back when I first collabed with them and people were trying to brigade against them. But yeah, I think this is the coolest way to deal with losers who are like, Hassan is a bad person. Like, fuck you.
Y'all really did a podcast. I used to like y'all. Y'all did a podcast with Hassan. Yeah. I always forget that he's really popular, so he has a lot of like haters too.
Yeah, whoever said that died slow. But man, you diss Hassan, you diss me.
Those are my goals, dude. Yeah. Promote the Fear End episode. You and Bad Empanada duked it out in his community post a little before you went live. I don't think it was a duking it out. I think it's just a difference of agreement, which is fine. We can have a difference in opinion. Chatters, it's normal and healthy to have disagreements with people who you align with on so many things. I think it's healthy. Where is it? Link me the Bad Empanada take. Where was it? Because I saw it. His community post showed up. Bad Empanada's community post showed up on my timeline, and he said, he's so fucking stupid. Look at this guy. I really respect the work he puts in for all of his videos. So I'm not gonna, I'm ribbing when I make fun of him for saying stuff like this, but I will fucking puke if I see a sound piker say, I invite Israelis onto my broadcast all the time, or tell us that we need to empathize with and humanize Israelis who are victims of propaganda themselves again. Jewish exceptionalist, liberal, Zionist drivel. Validating the idea that we need approval from tokens among the enemy to oppose them just because they're Jewish, and painting Zionists as being misled victims rather than the reality when they're enthusiastically and willingly pursuing their own interests for material gain at the cost of Palestinians. Sickening. P.S. Make excuses for this, permabanned on site. To which I responded with, the struggle is multifaceted. Internal pressure plays a role. I will not back away from contextualizing the role militant resistance plays in emancipation, but I also won't immediately discard those who have disagreements with me on that, especially when I've relied on their investigative reporting. I've used Yuval's work at +972 in the past. It's important not to take honest reporting in the bodies that Israeli Jewish allies put forth to protect Palestinians for granted, even if we have disagreements. He apparently replied to me, no, it's not important at all to even mention or notice that someone is Israeli or Jewish in the context of Israel colonialism in the name of Jewish ethnic supremacy. If you wouldn't do it for the Nazis, you shouldn't be doing it here. If you're critique, no, I don't think he understands. I guess we're talking past one another because that's not the point I was making at all. What the hell? The way I see it is like this. Okay, I live in a settler colonial enterprise that is also known as the United States of America. I'm an American citizen. I take advantage of the bounty of this settler colonial enterprise and the untold amount of pain that it cost, the untold amount of pain that it dished out upon the indigenous population here, and even chattel slavery. I also understand that this settler colonial enterprise, the United States of America, churns out a metric ton of propaganda to make people understand or make people feel like that is normal. That kind of violence is necessary. Okay? So if I am trying to actively talk to people in the United States of America, then I'm obviously going to explain to them that this is just programming so I can engage in deprogramming, right? And that is the exact same way. That is the exact same way that I approach Israel and every other country. If you critiqued on the basis of not considering the perspective of Israelis and your responses, but I've literally talked to Israelis on my stream and not the perspective of Israelis on an ethno-state run by and for them means nothing, then you're pleading people to liberal Zionism. It's nauseating and brainless. That Yuval is even given a platform to spout free to hostage bullshit is travesty. He's only there because of an accident of birth, because of a token Israeli stamp of approval is required on anything that Palestinians do. If not for that, he would have never been included. Instead of challenging this by questioning it, you reinforce his continuation by pointing to it as legitimizing and special. I think that, interestingly enough, we both recognize that Israel is a supremacist state. Okay, Israel is an ethno-religious supremacist state, and therefore Israelis, in the eyes of that ethno-supremacist Israeli state, specifically Israeli Jews, are definitely treated by this state as a higher priority. We both recognize that, and I say it's important that the emancipatory struggle is multifaceted, multi-pronged, and that it's important when Israelis put their bodies on the line as well, okay? Because ultimately, even if someone is, look, the way I see it is this, okay? I can disagree with someone who is, constantly talking about how devastating October 7 was. Like Bernie Sanders is a great example of this. Like I disagree with Bernie Sanders in the way that he has approached the issue of Israel, right? But he has so much more work that he has done that I think was incredibly important, and I will always give him props for that, right? This argument is so silly. Yes, if there were German civilian resistors during World War II, that would be a good thing. In Israel, we also have a few people like Ofer Kassif, Yuval Abraham, Gideon Levy, who are resistance and is good. Exactly. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate to paint every Israeli with the same brush. But also, I take it one step further. Like I've said, there are 100% plenty of Israelis who think what is going on in the West Bank is unconscionable to a degree where they will literally go out, and stand in front of the settlers, okay? If you're doing that, I'm never going to shit on you. If you're doing that, then that's good, okay? That's a good thing. I think, given my Turkish background, and also my American background as well, have an understanding of what it's like to constantly be cast aside by your own peers. Having said that, that is nothing in terms of the violence and ritualistic humiliation that Palestinians are subjected to by a rabid settler colonial genocidal apartheid state that is doing terror on a daily basis. You do not need to cede ground to bad faith actors, but you can understand that there are so many different approaches that people engage with. And in terms of the No Other Land, this is actually something I was going to talk about right now because it dovetails perfectly into the Israeli-Palestinian documentary No Other Land wins the Oscar. So let's start there, and then we'll get to Trump's tariffs, we'll get to the American economy, and we'll get to what Donald Trump is going to be saying later. There's a lot going on in the world, and we must cover it all, of course. You are covering the news from an American progressive perspective. He's more extreme in his views because he's covering the news from the perspective of a dude who's living in a third world country. He's in a transigent. Having said that, it ultimately, it is, at the end of the day, there are multiple perspectives in any conflict, in any involvement. For the MLKs of the world, there was always the Malcolm X's of the world, and the civil rights struggle would not have been successful without both of these parties. Nonviolent political resistance is incredibly important. When it comes to the apartheid state, it's the exact same thing. Whether it be South Africa or whether it be Israel, you are going to have internal pressure that plays a very significant role, okay? And those guys are not going to be like-minded, okay? They're not going to agree on everything because there's a metric ton of social conditioning that plays a role here. And I will continue advocating for the things that I believe in, even if those people consider me to be a terrorist, even if those people consider me to be lesser than them because of my background. Okay? And plenty of them do. A lot of people shut me out of this conversation. So brave of you to paint yourself as MLK in this comparison. What led you to believe that I was doing that? Okay? I'm not putting myself in this equation at all. I'm simply saying that as someone who is an onlooker, okay, as someone who is looking from the outside, who is trying to actively educate people on these matters, I'm saying that I would be someone who says, look, the Black Panther militancy is valid and plays a formative role in the civil rights struggle, just like MLK's peaceful civil disobedience played a very formative role in the civil rights struggle. It's not one or the other, it's both. Okay? That's how this works. At least throughout history, that is how it has always worked. Especially when, like, militancy is virtually, militancy and wars of attrition are unimaginably taxing on the civilian population, right? And when you are going up against an opponent, okay, when you're going up against an opponent that is backed by the largest state on the planet, the largest military on the planet, it's going to take a lot more than simply, militant struggle, militant emancipatory movements. It's just not going to work that way. That's just not how it goes. Sorry for spam. Would you be able to log into FOSSA quickly so we can get all the functionality back? Yeah, I'll do that right now. Hold on. All right, let me log in. Okay, we're good. All right, there's a bunch of stuff that I get logged out of automatically. Has there always been a clip button on Twitch's user interface? I swear I haven't seen it before. I don't know. Please watch Trudeau's response to the tariffs. Yeah, we'll get there. All right, your subs might have been canceled, by the way. So resubscribe because I was banned. When that happens, if your resub button was supposed to come out yesterday, then you weren't able to, and it just like auto cancels. I think that's how it works. We can't clip at the moment, presumably because of the ban. No, you can't clip if you're not subscribed. Subscribers obviously get a bunch of different things. You can clip stuff if you're a subscriber. You can send me links if you're a subscriber, things of that nature. All right. But let's get to No Other Land, the boys, okay? The boys that won an Oscar.
Oscar goes to No Other Land. This is the first Oscar and
Okay, but people say, where's the Nelson Mandela or the peace guy for Gaza? The answer is that he's dead or shot by Israeli missile. What to do? No, there is first of all, Nelson Mandela is not the peace guy for South Africa. He was literally in jail and refused to denounce violence as a formative part of his emancipatory struggle. And his jail sentence was extended time and time again for that. So Nelson Mandela was on the terrorist watch list, the American terrorist watch list until 2008, okay, far after he had actually been released from prison and became the leader of South Africa. So that's number one. And he has always stood up and actively talked about the formative role that militancy plays in resistance, and defended it, and literally has stayed in prison, extended his prison stay for that reason, for his defense of that. And the other argument is that it's Marwan Barghouti, which Hamas, even though they are supposed to be at odds with Marwan Barghouti, want Marwan Barghouti to be released from Israeli prison. So the Palestinian emancipatory movement, the Palestinian resistance, is united on bringing about an end to this occupation for understandable reasons. That is what their goal is. Okay?
Nomination for Bassel Adra, Rachel Shore, Hamdan Bilal, and
Hamdan Bilal.
Abraham.
Thank you to the Academy for the award.
Also, I'm very stoked and I'm very proud of you guys. This community raised $130,000. This community raised $131,000 for No Other Land Rebuilding Alliance fundraiser. We raised $100K when we raised $100,000 just while these guys were on the stream, Amazing. Fantastic. I love this community. That is why at the end of the day, no matter what people say, no matter what, like, oh, you're a terrorist, this or that, you're a bad person, this or that, none of that matters. Okay? None of that matters. We go ban for ban. All of these vice signalers out there who try to fucking smear me and smear you as well, they got nothing. They got no motion. They have horrible, sad, pathetic lives. And all they do is try to actively take down a community that is doing good. They hate that we do good here, and that's why they just try to smear to the best of their ability. Okay? Did you hear that they found this white supremacist dude Oh, they unmasked this guy? Nice. Captive Dreamer. Yeah, he used to be my biggest reply guy, my biggest Nazi reply guy. All right. I saw some Palestinians on TikTok saying this speech was really bad and kind of aligning with Israel, especially the October 7 comments. Yes, I know. I'm going to get to it. Hold on. I have some controversial takes that is going to make nobody happy.
It's such a big honor for the four of us and everybody supported us for this documentary. About 2 months ago, I became a father, and my hope to my daughter that she will not have to live the same life I'm living now, always fearing settlers' violence, home demolitions, and forest spill displacements that my community, Masafir Yatta, is living and facing every day under the Israeli occupation. No other land reflects the harsh reality that we have been enduring for decades and still resist as we call on the world to take serious actions to stop the injustice and to stop the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people.
So make no mistake. So this is Yuval Abraham, okay? He was supposed to come on the broadcast as well, but he was traveling on the day that I had Basel and Hamdan on. So unfortunately, he couldn't make it. I've asked Noah to hit up the 972 people to get Yuval on as well. I'm working on, if he's still in Los Angeles, because he's, probably very busy, considering he just won a fucking Oscar. But I'm going to try to see if I can get him on as well. I've relied on his work in the past. I think he's a great investigative reporter. I don't fully agree with everything, and I don't agree with the framing that he engages with here, but it doesn't matter, okay? Because ultimately, he plays a very important role in this. Now, the reason why I think he plays a very important role in this is because I'm not so silly to think that this documentary would have ever been produced or ever even, gotten out and gotten this much public appraisal or, even though there are still obviously very serious setbacks, it was the highest grossing documentary of 2024, and yet it still has not gotten a U.S. distributor, which is crazy, right? Unprecedented. And that shows you that there are still so many hurdles to overcome in terms of getting the word out, right? But this documentary in and of itself would not get to this, would never get this level of attention if it was not attached to an Israeli, okay? That is the reality. That is the sad reality, okay? If you don't recognize that, I don't know what to tell you. There is no way. It just would not happen because, unfortunately, the way that Palestinians are treated by the Western world is like they are not real human beings, okay? They are actively dehumanized by those in positions of power, okay? But because of that reason, I think it's important that there are people within Israel, within the ethno-supremacist state, that do put their names out there and their bodies out there alongside Palestinians to help give a voice to this struggle. Okay? I think this is ultimately a good thing. I hate this framing that Israelis are intertwined with Palestinians. They're settlers and they need to face this reality instead of whitewashing the position of privilege he holds. Very narcissistic stuff. What is this? How are Twitter accounts with Palestine flag in their name falling for this Hasbro about your cancellation? Okay, stop, chatter. Come on. We're being serious right now. Yeah, the whole Berlin fiasco too, but Germany is obviously on another level. Exactly.
We made this film, Palestinians and Israelis, because together our voices are stronger. We see each other, the atrocious destruction of Gaza and its people, which must end, the Israeli hostages brutally taken in the crime of October 7th, which must be freed. When I look at Basel, I see my brother, but we are unequal. We live in a regime where I am free under civilian law, and Basel is under military laws that destroy his life and he cannot control. There is a different path, a political solution without ethnic supremacy, with national rights for both of our people. And I have to say, as I am here, the foreign policy in this country is helping to block this path. And, why? Can't you see that we are intertwined? That my people can be truly safe if Basel's people are truly free and safe. There is another way.
So people got very upset at this. Right? They were like, what do you mean? My people are only safe. Like, factoring Israeli security concerns into this conversation about, apartheid and genocide is inappropriate, was the initial reaction. But I think what Yuval is saying there, okay, and I don't fully agree with him because I know he's like said, I mean, he has said a bunch of things about October 7th in the past as well. But I think everybody received this in the way that they wanted to. Like, some people really liked it because this gives them permission to feel good. This gives white liberals permission to feel good, right? But yeah, what he's saying basically is, yeah, nobody is free until everybody is free. Okay? Having said that, however, this is, of course, not the end-all, be-all, okay? He's not going to, I don't think Yuval is ever going to come out and be like, Hamas is bullets are guided by Allah. They are doing a moral thing or whatever. He's not going to say that, okay? It's ridiculous. The expectation here is that he is not speaking to the Palestinians in general. He's not speaking to those who understand the dynamic very well. He's speaking to those who don't understand this dynamic at all. That's the entire purpose of this fucking documentary. That's it. So when he says, like, we will never be free until Palestinians are free, you can either interpret that as, well, Israel has security concerns and he just only cares about the Israeli security concerns, or you can interpret it as no one is free until everyone is free. And that, I mean, I think he should have just said this, there should be an end to this occupation. Like that would have wrapped it up much nicer, I think, This is like what you say when trans black chatters get mad at you and talking about them. He's not talking to you. His job is to be the bridge to the Western Israeli audience, and that's what he's doing. Using your privilege for good is a good thing, and all the hate Yuval is getting is unwarranted. Be mad that Palestinians need Israelis to help them tell stories. Don't be mad at the Israeli guy who's doing the job he should be doing. Yeah, I don't think that I don't think that this is a bad thing at all. I think this is a good thing. He clearly doesn't want the occupation to end. I don't think that that's the case. I don't know.
It's not too late for life, for the living. There is no other way. Thank you.
Like, even his invocation of October 7, I think, can be interpreted within the context of like, October 7 happened because of the occupation. Yeah, there's a crime for undermining the crimes of October 7, classic fascist shit. He just can't, and it's okay for now. Like, I think that this documentary winning an Oscar is a good thing. Okay? I will stand by that. Because this documentary winning an Oscar is like, I don't think people understand what the issue of Palestine was like, especially in circles like fucking Hollywood. Okay? Like, I know that a lot of you got really woke on this post October 7, and you have these opinions, right? And you have these strong opinions, and that's understandable because you've seen incredible amounts of cruelty. Like, you've seen a direct genocide in real time take place. And that's like mind-boggling that other people don't see the reality that you see. But as someone who is 33 fucking years old, I'm telling you, when I explain to you that as someone who has seen this play out in the Western world for the past 10 years, as someone who has been outspoken about Palestinian liberation, I cannot comprehend how we even got to this point. Hollywood is the number one foreign policy defenders, okay? Hollywood loves the State Department. They booed Michael Moore. They booed him off stage, famously. And Michael Moore is like a social democrat who's like, maybe we shouldn't be so violent. Like, that's all he said. And they were like, boo, yeah, kill yourself, Yeah, 5 Broken Cameras is the last Palestinian doc that was nominated. It lost in 2013 to Searching for Sugar Man, and the director was detained on entry into the U.S. Like, I cannot comprehend how far this movement has gotten in terms of especially like broad public appeal, but even institutional recognition. Okay. I am never going to disparage that. I'm never going to disparage that because everything that I do, everything that I advocate for, I advocate while also taking a serious look at the material realities. I also advocate or everything that I advocate for, I obviously factor in public collective consciousness on these issues. Okay? It's a massive, massive, and very significant moment. And yes, the sad reality of it is that this would have never happened if it was not attached to an Israeli investigative reporter. Okay? And even if I have my disagreements with some of the things that Yuval has said apparently on his Twitter and whatnot, it still doesn't matter. 972 Magazine and Local Call are fantastic investigative reporters inside of Israel. And if you are serious about covering the many different crimes that the Israeli state engages in, okay, you need guys like him. That's it. You don't have to agree with everything that they say. You don't have to agree with their entire worldview, but they're doing an incredibly important job. Okay, in the face of untold amounts of cruelty that the Palestinians are subjected to, yes, they're using their position of privilege. Okay, and they're like, Yuval can go anywhere he wants. He can go anywhere in the United States of America. He can go anywhere he wants in the West Bank. His freedom of travel is not restricted in the same way that Basil and Hamdan's freedom of travel is restricted. Okay? Their families are constantly under threat. You should remind Chad that Basil's village also was reported on by Shireen Abu Akleh, bringing attention to the plight of Palestinians is a net good. Yeah. Shireen Abu Akleh reporting from the village featured in No Other Land. Sadly, just as the occupation forces killed the residents of the village, they eventually killed her too. Yeah. Just as I will not stand down whenever people tell me that I am pro-terrorism, that I'm an Islamist fundamentalist who loves Hamas or whatever, just as I will not stand down from helping Americans, the Western audiences, understand how violent militant resistance occurs when a population is subjected to untold amounts of cruelty and violence themselves, and how that violence and the standard of that violence is set by the occupying entity, the more powerful force, the Israeli state in this process. And a reaction to that violence is always going to try to match the level of violence that Israel is subjecting the Palestinians to. Just like I will not back away from that commentary, I am not going to immediately cast aside people who might not agree with me every step of the way. Okay? That's it. That's it. That's how it goes. Anyway, let's continue. My job and the role I see myself playing in the issues that I speak on is to actively bring more allies, is to actively convince more people to have an empathetic approach to those who are struggling. And a part of that, a big part of that, revolves around understanding that most people are victim to social conditioning. Okay? Social conditioning plays a major role in their lives and the way that they approach the world. And it's no different whether you live in Israel and you take for granted everything that the Israeli state has told you, everything that Israeli education has taught you, or if you live in the United States of America and you learn that, you know, our founding fathers were good guys ultimately, but, you know, maybe some of them hunt slaves. It's not a big deal, whatever. You know, maybe there was a little bit of genocide, or that America does a lot of violence, but it's actually ultimately at the behest of a greater good. Right? Like, I understand that if that is so many people's starting position, that I have to work to actively deprogram these people. And I can't do that by constantly yelling at them and saying that they're bad or problematic or evil. Okay? No one is evil. There is no such thing. No one is good or bad. Everyone is, at the end of the day, victim to their material circumstances, okay? Victim to social conditioning. And they can do evil things in the process, or they can do good things in the process, but we are still responding to shapes and colors, okay? That's it. Peter Beinart says, this is what must scare AIPAC and its allies. They are winning politically but losing culturally. Their attack ads can't stop Blue America's shift in collective consciousness on the question of Palestinian freedom. If politics really is downstream from culture, they're in trouble. Okay? Here's completely unhinged piece on the leading Israeli site, Channel 12's Mako, claims that Yuval Avraham spoke in such an offensive manner about the state of Israel without understanding the consequence of the damage he causes, but that his body language shows he was lying. Analysis of body language leads to the hypothesis that there are strong interests driving Abraham's behavior. These guys in Israel cannot even comprehend how someone can see the Israeli state as ultimately doing a lot of evil, okay? They can't even comprehend it. They think like, oh, we must bring in a behavioral analysis. Analysis of body language leads to the hypothesis that there are strong interests driving Abraham's behavior. He wanted to say terror babies, but he stopped himself. Yes. He is being mind controlled by a puppet. It seems the puppet is Hamas and Iran. He must have been given the drug that Hamas has that makes you dap. Ultimately, all I'm saying is I would be a unimaginable hypocrite if I were to speak out against those who are like Ofer Kasif or Tal or numerous other anti-Zionist Israelis as someone who is an anti-imperialist American. Okay? The fuck? I live in America. I like America. I want America to reach its potential. I want America to take advantage of its bounty, its endless bounty, and actually do good for the world. Okay? That's why I endlessly critique it. It's ridiculous. I think a lot of people get washed away in all of the Hassan says America bad all the time nonsense. Okay? Silly. Yes. One might even say, I want to make America great again. Except I don't think that there was any moment where America truly was living up to its standard, its potential. I will get to the stalker stuff with Emaru, Valkyrie, Cinna, and Emily later. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but the one note that I will give you on that, obviously, I'm sure many of you saw this already. It was massive news. Valkyrie and Cinna were doing a sis-a-thon for the past week. And in the process, they went to the Santa Monica Pier while they were doing an IRL stream, and a stalker came up to them and actively threatened to kill them. All I'm going to say for now, before because I will get back to that in a little bit, but all I will say on that note for now is that if it happens to them, think about how much that kind of stuff happens to just average regular women on a daily basis, okay? Men not being able to handle rejection and instantly hitting a violent note is very commonplace. Women talk about it all the time, okay? Women talk about it all the time. And regular women, not just like content creators, not just influencers. It happens all the goddamn time. This industry is unimaginably misogynistic. Everything is unimaginably misogynistic, obviously. And this is a byproduct of that. And it's going to get worse, I think, because there are people like Andrew Tate out there, the Keemstars of the world, all these fucking assholes who spend every waking moment talking about how women ain't shit. And they're normalizing this kind of rhetoric. They're normalizing this kind of behavior. It's obviously multifaceted because they're also content creators themselves. So there's like obviously a lot of content creators, myself included, that, you know, have always had stalkers. Like this is the untold reality of Twitch streaming in general, okay? Every single content creator, no matter what size they're at, has a lot of people that are just not well. And they can't get the medical help that's necessary for obvious reasons. And that paired up with unrestricted misogyny creates a really, really dangerous situation. Yeah. And if you don't believe me, if you don't want to take my word for it, if you think, you know, I'm some douchebag, then go ask your mother, go ask your sister, go ask any woman in your life that has ever had a similar altercation in a workplace or a bar. Like this is the reality that women have to live with on a daily basis. I've seen some people instantly try to victim blame, which is a very common tactic, also utilized by the likes of the Andrew Tates of the world as well. And those people are just psychotic. I can't say what I truly think about what must be done in that process because I just got back from a ban. That's all I'm saying. Okay? But holy moly, okay? We'll get to that later, and I'll talk more about that later, okay? Now we're going to talk about President Trump addressing Congress as new tariffs take effect on Mexico, Canada, and China.
We've got two major developing stories for you today, not just one, but two. First, the Trump administration's new tariffs on three major trading partners, Mexico, Canada, and China, went into effect at midnight last night, and some of those countries have already retaliated. And second, the White House paused all U.S. military aid to Ukraine after that very explosive showdown between President Trump and President Zelensky. Now, that's the backdrop for the president's speech tonight in Congress, and Tony is there in Washington getting ready to bring us all the latest. Tony, good morning to you. Everybody's saying how dapper you look today. Good morning, Mr. DeCopo.
Well, Gail, thank you very much. You're back from the Oscars, Hollywood's biggest night.
Oh, there it is. Double circ, Tony. Double circed up Tony, baby. Tony Two-Tone, my guy. I will never stop thinking about his penis anytime he comes on screen, okay? Forever tarnished. I'm sorry. It's just, will I get banned for saying that you champion terrorist militants? No. You'll just be screaming into a void alongside a bunch of other dumbasses as well. But keep up the good work, brave soldier. You know?
Nate's been on a beach vacation, and here I am in Washington, D.C., and it's not even a State of the Union, so I'm questioning my life choices just a little bit. But look, it is going to be a big night, a potentially historic night in what has already been a fast-moving and consequential presidency in less than 100 days. You got to keep that in mind. We've been told by the Speaker of the House to expect fireworks tonight. So while a typical joint address might be a somewhat boring, somewhat somber list of goals from a new president, you can expect President Trump to instead tout action, accomplishments. And there's been a lot of that, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe no president since FDR has attempted so much so quickly. There is, for example, the at times chaotic effort by Elon Musk and Doge to shrink the size of the federal government. Also on the list, working toward a ceasefire in Ukraine by, it would seem, whatever means necessary. Also, the hefty new tariffs on imported goods from Canada, Mexico, and China. And this morning, by the way, China has said it will retaliate, and Canada also already hitting back. And that is just one of many moves this White House has made to expand the power of the executive branch. So much has happened, really, that even folks here in Washington, D.C. struggle at times to process it all. But that's why we have Nancy Cordes, our chief White House correspondent, to stay on top of everything. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning, Tony. I have had my struggles, but today is a day that the president will be front and center. And you know that this is a president who cares a lot about the stock market, but yet.
Yeah, no, he cares so much. That's why he's destroying it. That's my king. That's JD Pondom, baby. That's my goat right there. He said, the Treatlerites must suffer. Permanent first. He said, hold on, let me put this on. JD Pondon said, permanent first world genocide. The Treatlerites in the suburbs will scream bloody murder. I will take away their treats. Fun. Enjoy the treats while you can. You will never enjoy them again. The Chinese century of prosperity is upon us. I will make our allies scream. And in the process, I will cripple the America economy. It's Trumponomics.
Yesterday, after he announced that there was no way.
Last night, I realized I was a Treatlerite when I took out a Trader Joe's lasagna and it said product of Canada. And I realized it would go up 25% time next time I buy it. That's right. Trader Joe's lasagna from Canada, which is a settler colonial entity in and of itself under the banner of the Commonwealth, still holding up loyalty to the British Empire. Canada will also suffer.
Out for Canada and Mexico, the Dow fell 650 points. Still, 25% tariffs on their goods went into effect overnight with President Trump.
He said, the labor aristocracy. I love doing JD Pondon. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. I'm going to dial it back a little bit.
Trump calling it a punishment, though it's unclear in the case of Canada in particular what that punishment exactly is for.
No room left for Mexico or for Canada.
President Trump is calling today's tariffs a powerful weapon. a weapon that will now be wielded on food, lumber, electronics, cars, anything that comes into the U.S.
so I can
from
say
Canada and Mexico.
It's a very powerful weapon that politicians haven't used because they were either dishonest, stupid, or paid off in some other form. And now we're using them.
The move could wound American consumers, too, as producers pass along that new 25% tax, driving up the cost of a small car.
I still genuinely do not understand what, like, Trump's internal purpose for this is. Like, I don't know. I've said this already. I've tried to make sense of this. I've talked about how maybe it's because he wants to, like, bully key sectors into submission. But having said that, this is across the board tariffs. So it's not even divided evenly by sector. There is no, it just does not make sense. It truly feels like he is trying to, it truly feels like he is just trying to break everything. This, like USAID, I understand a little bit more, right? He's not doing it because he's not undermining and crippling USAID because he is trying to eradicate American soft power at the global stage. He's doing it because he personally thinks USAID is just libtard shit, right? He thinks USAID and all the NGOs and civil society organizations that it funds is a money sink for numerous Democratic Party goals and organizations. There's some truth to that. However, it plays a broader role in doing the bidding of American empire at the end of the day. Trump might not have the foresight to recognize that, right? He might not have the foresight to recognize that. He might be more interested in changing the approach that America has had in terms of focusing on soft power initiatives and hyper-focusing exclusively and entirely on permanent war. Not to be a hater, but why do you think Trump unilaterally decides any of this? I mean, I think when I say Trump, I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about like his advisors as well. I'm not simply referencing Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump operates on his own, obviously. I guess the other point for the tariffs is that it's a regressive tax, and he will use the additional money that they get from tariffs as a way to say, we filled up the government coffers. Now it's time to cut the only progressive tax that exists, which is income tax. And even then, there's a million different loopholes. I mean, we've talked about all of this stuff already, but it still does not make a whole lot of sense.
By an estimated $6,200, or an SUV by $9,000. So many car components are built across the border.
Because of the arbitrary nature of the emergency use of tariffs that are being done, we don't know how long they're going to be in effect. At the end of the day, there is little doubt that consumers will feel the pain of this, but it will also impact consumer demand as well.
Economic uncertainty already pushed consumer confidence down in February.
This will help Tesla, right? No, it won't. No, it will help zero car manufacturers, because even the cars that are manufactured in the United States of America, because of previous trade agreements, whether it be NAFTA or, ironically enough, the trade agreement that Donald Trump did, NAFTA 2, has created this network of back and forth between Canada and Mexico, where they pass the American border into Mexico and pass the border into Canada and vice versa a million times until the car is assembled in the United States of America. That actually ends up, yes, USMCA is what I'm talking about. That actually ends up greatly increasing the cost of the car if they have to pay for all of the different parts that are being manufactured in Mexico or Canada before it makes its way into the United States of America, when every single car manufacturer is paying an entry fee numerous times over. Like, yes, United States, Mexico, Canada agreement, which was signed on July 1st, 2020. Okay, drafted in the 30th of September 2018, is an agreement that Donald Trump put forth, which was a substitution for NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, which Donald Trump was very much against. But then he basically did the exact same thing. For the people who still don't understand how tariffs work, it is an entry fee that Americans pay for, okay? American importers pay for, just so you understand. It's not paid by the Mexican government, and it's not paid by the Canadian government. The negative consequences for trade for the Canadian or the Mexican side will obviously be that people will look for domestic manufacturers instead, or they will go to other foreign nations that provide the same exact resources, same exact materials, or same exact parts at a cheaper price, because now they don't have an additional 25% that they have to pay at the point of bringing it into the United States of America. So it will lower trade, and it will restrict. I mean, it has the capacity to restrict trade. That is why it's often used. I am not anti-tariff across the board. I've said this many times over. I'm not, I'm not against trade protectionist. I'm not against trade protectionism across the board. I do think that there needs to be, obviously, a competitive manufacturing industry. And the irony here is that for many of the things that, if you're doing, across the board tariffs, there is no competitive domestic manufacturing on some of the raw materials, for example, that you need. Like, what are you going to do if it just doesn't exist here? But let's get back.
A new CBS News poll, just 24% of Americans say the economy is getting better.
This is bad, because normally it's the 30% that are like the Trump loyalists that will always say, no, it's getting better. It's so sick now. I love the economy. And even that number has like diminished. He's sub 30 in his super base. Okay. That's not good.
Better. 49% said it's getting worse. But President Trump says the tariffs are needed to punish Mexico and Canada for allowing migrants and the deadly drug fentanyl into the U.S.
Less than 1% of all fentanyl that comes into the U.S. is apprehended at the Canadian border. So why use fentanyl as a reason?
They're only apprehending 1%. You're right about that. It's a little more than that. But they should be apprehending much more, because a lot comes through Canada.
Again, all the data that we have indicates that that is simply not the case. But what does come in through Canada is about a third of the softwood lumber that this nation uses, which has led analysts to predict that home building prices will be going up. President Trump says that companies don't like these new tariffs. They can simply move production to the United States. But, Tony, when it comes to things like...
What are you going to do? What do you mean? What do you mean? Okay, you don't like the tariffs? It's time to destroy our our forests? Is that what it is? Oh, you don't like the tariffs? Okay, well, sorry. Time to destroy American forests. Canada just has a lot of trees, man. They have a lot of allocation for this. What are you supposed to do? I mean, we got forests too. Don't misunderstand me. We got forests out here. It's just that, I guess he just wants to destroy the remainder of the American forests.
Lumber or fruits and vegetables from Mexico, moving it here, not that easy.
No, it takes time, and there are benefits that the president is touting, but there could be sacrifices in the short term. Sacrifice is not a word he typically would want to use with the American people. We'll see if it comes up tonight.
More on President Trump's tariffs and what they could mean for consumers. Elizabeth Schulze joins us to break down the potential.
They announced it yesterday, going to clear 280 million acres of national forest trees. Jesus Christ, dude. I mean, I suspect that it'll be much easier to do these sorts of things when you can't do an impact study, because you fired every researcher and you think impact studies are woke and gay. I wonder what the long-term consequences will look like when you're just gutting the remainder of the American forests now. Oh, great. I love having people control the wheel that have no interest in being even remotely reasonable, just doing absolute death and destruction. Great stuff.
Impact. And Elizabeth, what kind of products?
You can't ramp up production that quickly. There's also that side of it too, but I'm not even going to get into that. Okay? There's also obviously the fact that you can't just materialize out of nowhere all of these businesses that seemingly did not exist. You just can't do that.
Are going to be affected by these tariffs on America's top trading partners.
Hey, good morning, Robin. Well, the short answer here is that a lot of products that we buy day to day could get more expensive. Groceries, gas, shoes, clothes, electronics. Mexico, Canada, and China, they accounted for almost half of all of the goods that were shipped into the U.S. last year. And the way that these tariffs work is that American businesses that are importing goods from those countries will now have to pay the U.S. government a higher fee for their products to cross the border. A key goal there is to incentivize companies to rely on domestic manufacturers to boost jobs here. But in the short term, those American businesses will have to decide if they absorb higher costs from the tariffs or if they pass them down to their customers, Robin.
Okay, so if companies do pass down the costs, how soon could consumers pay higher prices?
Okay, so if these tariffs stay in place, economists expect you could start to see price hikes by Memorial Day. For groceries, it could be within weeks or even days, Robin. So take fresh produce, for example. About 63% of U.S. vegetable imports come from Mexico. Think bell peppers, cucumbers, strawberries, tomatoes, limes, avocados, a lot of that fresh produce. And grocers, they can't really stockpile those foods in advance. So if they decide to pass down the entire 25% tariff, that means your $3 avocado could end up costing $3.75 pretty quickly. Liquor, like tequila and Canadian whiskey, could also get more expensive. And then the auto sector, really another big one at risk here. Automakers rely on thousands of different car parts that are traded between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. If they are paying more to get those parts, you could end up paying $3,000 more for a new car. And some of the dealers that we've talked to say that they might raise those prices within months, Robin.
And many are wondering about gas prices, Elizabeth. Could they go up too?
They could. So about 60% of the crude oil that the U.S. imports comes from Canada. Our refineries are actually uniquely built to process Canadian oil. The national average right now for a gallon of gas about $3. Gas Buddy expects that the tariffs mean prices could go up by 15 cents a gallon in the Midwest.
That's right. My goat, he's doing it. He's doing it. He's fixing the cost of living crisis by making it so that by making it so expensive that you just die. It's so sick. He's doing it, man. This goes back to the thing that I was talking about initially, the resentment and the jealousy that I have, the envy that I have for Trump getting to do whatever he wants and his fan base just eating it up like it's the most brilliant thing that's ever happened. Like it's the most brilliant thing that's ever taken place. He's doing it again. He could just be like, yep, that's right. You're going to suffer, but it's okay because you deserve to suffer. We are going to deindustrialize the United States of America. The labor aristocracy. The labor aristocracy will suffer the largest penalties for the American empire's cruelty. Endless bounty. Unequal exchange is over, folks. Okay, let's listen to Maria Bartiromo crashing out at a auto dealership guy freaking out about these tariffs.
Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. Yeah. Impact.
I love that for months I said, and many other people who understand what's going on said over and over again that this is going to tank the American economy, that this is going to make everything insanely expensive. Okay? We said this over and over again. And for some weird reason, no one on the conservative side ever took this seriously. Like, I don't get it.
Dramatic.
All of this will make the EU stronger. No, it won't. It absolutely will not. You're wrong.
A sold order for a customer, $80,000 truck. It's $100,000 now. So he's not going to buy the truck. It's going to sit on my lot at the higher interest rates we're paying right now for floor plan, and nobody's going to buy the truck because it just had a $20,000 price increase.
Right. Kelley Blue Book will put the number up. They say the average vehicle will go up by about $3,000. Does it sound right to you?
No, it will not. We don't have the broad stroke. We don't have the linear, the tight strokes. But
I just wanted to make my camera smaller so you can see the Dow futures on the ticker in the corner there. Like while all of this is happening, the stock market's taking a nosedive, which is also weird. He said he was going to do it. Why didn't people? This is the other thing that I don't understand. Why is the stock market responding to this now? He's been saying he's going to do this for months at this point. I just do not understand. Stocks mostly rebound. I know, but like, I don't know. I don't understand it. I'm too stupid, I guess. I'm too stupid to understand the high IQ games that people are playing on the stock market.
But to me, it's a 25% in tariff. So that affects our parts that come from over these countries and a whole bunch of our cars.
And you've been basing your business model on free trade, basically. This is what the American Automakers Policy Council says, Maria, in response to this. They say our American automakers invested billions in the U.S. to meet the requirements of the current free trade agreement. They shouldn't have their competitiveness undermined by tariffs that'll raise the cost of building vehicles in the U.S. and stymie investment in the American workforce while competitors from the outside of North America benefit. The German, there's no tariff on the German cars coming in now.
No, they're Japanese. They're going to be okay, but think about it. We built our business around that. The OEMs built their business around that, and now it changes on a dime, and we can't build a $4 billion plant overnight in the United States. So I think building in the United States is great. I think enhancing the participation from the other countries on the other things, but this is pretty radical.
I hear you. There you go, Maria, where the rubber meets the road here.
All right, great. Yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, thank you. Thank you so much. Jeff Flock at the Dodge Ram plant. Not plant. It's not a plant, Chris. They're selling cars. Thank you, dealership. But you know what? Let me ask you this, okay?
Yes.
How many Dodge Rams do you see driving around Europe? Okay.
I once again am asking Amerifat morons why they do not make cars that are appropriate for the European market, and then sit there and demand that they drive these behemoth tanks on roads that cannot sustain them. Make better cars. It's so stupid. Make smaller, fuel-efficient cars with smaller engines. That's it. Abide by EU standards and regulations. The Chinese car manufacturers never turned around and were like, no, you're going to drive our version of these vehicles. We don't care. They looked at the market and they were like, okay, we'll make these incredibly competitive and very cheap electric vehicles, and we will flood your market, and they will be impossible to compete with on a price point because we're heavily subsidizing it. Okay? That's it. It's not like they were sitting around being like, no, we want to make tanks. Why won't the dumb Europeans purchase our tanks? The cars that we make here in the United States of America are ginormous. The F-150, until this past year, was the most popular vehicle year over year. Okay, the F-150, the Ford F-150 pickup truck. The Ford F-150 pickup truck inside of the European Union needs a commercial driver's license to be able, for a European to operate an F-150, you need a commercial driver's license. Do you understand? You're immediately, automatically shut out from half of the European streets. You can't go into any European cities. It is ginormous. What are we doing here? It's so frustrating. Where they're like, why won't they buy our tanks? Why won't they do that? They made the calculation that the American cultural exports will eventually lead Europeans to want street tanks, and to some extent it's working. I see way too many Ram 1500s on the road here in Austria. Wait, really? I thought you meant Australia. I was about to say, well, they have a Ute culture over there, but Austria? That's crazy.
How many Dodge Rams do you see driving around India? I mean, not many, I bet. Why? Because they don't buy our cars. And that's what President Trump is trying.
Yeah, also, that's the other thing. Toyota literally sells different cars in the U.S. to match our needs and interests. You won't find a Tundra or Tacoma in the heart of Tokyo when they can't hit in this, when they can't fit in the side roads. Exactly. Even the Tacoma has become ginormous. And then you have the Tundra, which is the American competitor. It's crazy. I hate it. I hate that, the one good thing about the European Union is walkable cities and a walkable infrastructure and public transit. And that is partially because, you know, they did that before the American brain rot set in. Okay, they did that. And now we're just like going to force their hands and be like, nah, dude, you have to have these tanks. You have to literally rebuild your cities, destroy the public transit so that you can have Ford F-150 pickup trucks driving around. You have to literally destroy what remains of like the parks and whatnot so you can create these ginormous parking lot structures.
Trying to change, maybe Dodge should start building them here and selling them here.
Also, Ford, GM, etc. do the same thing. They have non-American models in the EU, for example. It's a common gripe with the EV community. These American automakers being cool EVs everywhere but the US. Think shooting brakes, saloons. Why are cars so thick now? Like, is it just American brain culture nonsense? No, it's partially because of CAFE standards that if you make a vehicle so large that it just like becomes a commercial vehicle, basically, but you can still sell it as a regular vehicle. All right, where were we? All right, let's get back to this.
Much as 40 cents a gallon within a week in the Northeast, Robin.
All right, Elizabeth, our thanks to you.
We have some breaking news coming in. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau speaking right now after the U.S. slapped Canada with 25% tariffs. Let's listen.
SUVs get the truck emission standards, so they get more lax emission standards. Exactly. It's a way to take advantage of a regulatory loophole, because that's how everything works in this goddamn country, because everyone is a charlatan.
So today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. At the moment, the U.S. tariffs came into effect in the early hours of this morning, and so did the Canadian response.
Boom.
Canada will be implementing.
Yeah, enjoy not having maple syrup, you American dummies. I'm kidding. Obviously, there's so much more than just maple syrup. Let's be real, but
25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. Starting with tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods immediately, and tariffs on the remaining $125 billion of American products in 21 days' time. Should these tariffs not cease, we are in active and ongoing discussions with provinces and territories to pursue several non-tariff measures. Measures which will demonstrate that there are no winners in a trade war. Now, just like I did a month ago, I want to speak first directly to the American people. We don't want this. We want to work with you as a friend and ally. And we don't want to see you hurt either. But your government has chosen to do this to you. As of this morning, markets are down, and inflation is set to rise dramatically all across your country. Your government has chosen to put American jobs at risk, at the thousands of workplaces that succeed because of materials from Canada or because of consumers in Canada, or both. They've chosen to raise costs for American consumers on everyday essential items like groceries and gas, on major purchases like cars and homes, and everything in between. They've chosen to harm American national security, impeding access to the abundant critical minerals, energy, building materials, and fertilizers that we have and that the United States needs to grow and prosper. They've chosen to launch a trade war that will, first and foremost, harm American families. They've chosen to sabotage their own agenda that was supposed to usher in a new golden age for the United States. And they've chosen to undermine the incredible work we've done together to tackle the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that must be wiped from the face of the earth. So on that point, let me be crystal clear. There is absolutely no justification or need whatsoever for these tariffs today. Now, the legal pretext your government is using to bring in these tariffs is that Canada is apparently unwilling to help in the fight against illegal fentanyl. Well, that is totally false. Let's look at the facts. Our border is already safe and secure. Far less than 1% of fentanyl flows and less than 1% of illegal crossings into the United States.
I think one of the funniest aspects of this is like Trudeau is like subtly trying to throw Mexico under the bus here and also fact checking Trump. But what's hilarious about it is that Claudia Sheinbaum did her version of this as well, which is that Claudia Sheinbaum said the objective reality, which is that fentanyl is trafficked into the United States by American nationals for the American public consumer. Okay? That's it. It's the truth. American citizens are the ones who are trafficking the fentanyl into the United States of America for the consumption of other American citizens. Okay? And in the process, those American citizens also defend the cartel's interests by giving them endless amounts of weapons. We are a belligerent state that is ruining the lives of, actively ruining the lives of countries that unfortunately are near our national boundaries. But God forbid we take ownership over any of that. No, it must be the Guatemalan abuelas, you know?
The United States comes from Canada. But we acted because we know we can always do better. We responded to concerns, including from the president, by implementing an ambitious $1.3 billion border plan. A border plan that includes generational investments in new AI and imaging tools to stop the flow of fentanyl in its tracks, stronger coordination and information sharing with American agencies, along with the deployment of drones, helicopters, and additional personnel to keep our border secure. A month ago, as part of an agreement with the United States that paused the tariffs, we made further commitments. We appointed Kevin Brasseau as our fentanyl czar, a man who dedicated his multi-decade career in law enforcement to combating organized crime networks and drug trafficking. We designated 7 drug cartels, sick, evil groups who cynically profit off the pain and suffering of people on both sides of the border, as the terrorist organizations that they are. And just yesterday, we launched a new joint operations partnership supported by a $200 million investment between Canada's security and law enforcement agencies, a partnership that will enhance the coordination of information and intelligence in order to thwart criminal gangs involved in the illegal fentanyl trade.
He spends too much time on this. Trump does not care even a little bit about fentanyl. What's really interesting is he's doing the same thing that Zelensky did, which I think might have made sense in the past, maybe, but like doesn't currently make sense for present day America, which is respond reasonably and try to reason with the American audience by sidestepping Trump. Okay? He's not talking to Trump here. He's talking to the Americans, okay? He's being like, oh, your president is lying to you about this stuff. Please listen to what I have to say. Please listen to reason. And I think it's a foolhardy endeavor. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think that a lot of these Americans will ever hear out what Justin Trudeau is saying. Okay? They just don't care. I don't think they care at all. I don't think they care about the truth. I don't think they care about being reasonable or looking at the cold, hard data. I just think that they are purely spite-driven, very confused, very angry all the time, and Trump keeps their attention focused on vulnerable populations in general. It's worth a try. No, dude, it's not. I don't think it is. That's why I said the exact same thing about Zelensky. When Zelensky went on Brett Baer and like tried to talk directly to the American population and turn around and say like, you know, listen to what's going on. Like my people are suffering. Okay. I'm a president. Like I have to defend their interests. America, we love America. We love Americans. You've supported us throughout this process. I'm like, you know, we still need your help. I don't think Americans care. They just don't. I think that Americans are insanely selfish. I don't think that you are going to be able to win over the Americans, as especially with like reason. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so jaded because I tried to get Americans as an American citizen to understand that things could be so much better if we had healthcare, for example, or if we just stopped spending so much money on war overseas and like giving unlimited billions to Israel so they can continue their baby murder campaign or whatever. And Americans say I'm a terrorist for that. They say I want vuvuzela rat eating. When I say, oh, I want socialized medicine in this country, Americans, a big chunk of them turn around and say, oh, you want Venezuela-style rat for dinner, rat for breakfast. That's what you want. They're brain broken. Like, I don't know. I try reasoning with the public all the time. And let me tell you, as someone who tries to reason with them using logic, using common sense, many of them do not respond. The only thing that they respond to is you know, the direct impact of Trump's actions. Once it starts hurting them directly, they'll notice it, they'll feel it. Only then will they wake up to that reality. And even then, many of them will still go, oh, it's because we haven't like done enough cruelty to migrants or something.
Critically, our actions are working. As the U.S. Customs and Border Protection just
you are not the leader of a country.
There was a 97% drop in fentanyl seizures from January compared to December, to a near zero low of less than half an ounce seized in January, even with all the further enforcements and actions we've taken at the borders. In sum, we stepped up. We engaged closely and constructively with the president and his administration. We did everything we promised. We stuck to our word. And we did it because we believe in working together to protect our citizens. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the US have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald.
Because he's woke. Because he's woke and he is Fidel Castro's next of kin. That's why. Because Justin Trudeau is a communist.
They point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Yeah, look, the thing is, I will say this much, okay? Part of the reason why I'm not anti-tariff across the board is because I do think that it has the capacity to beef up domestic manufacturing, okay, if done correctly. If it's managed through unions like the UAW, for example, and they play a big role in how manufacturing can be increased, for example. I just don't trust the Donald Trump administration to actually actively give a seat at the table to the UAW, though. I think it could be done correctly. It just can't be blanket tariffs across the board for each individual nation. What he's doing here is basically breaking the toys that America benefited from for years and years and years. That's all he's doing. Trade negotiations that he actually renegotiated. The USMCA is the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement is literally NAFTA 2. Donald Trump implemented that. Okay? So when he turns around and he's like, yeah, I don't want it no more. What I find very strange about these decisions is that these are negotiations and agreements that benefited America and the American consumers, often at the cost of American manufacturing. Clawing that back and reshaping American priorities and reshaping American manufacturing in this way is not necessarily a bad thing in the long term if done correctly. But of course, as is the case with Donald Trump, he's not doing it correctly. I don't think that he's doing it for a good reason. I don't think he's doing it to improve American manufacturing. But to be fair, I also don't know what he is trying to do anyway, because so much of the Trump administration is just genuine insanity. Yeah, we'd have to do China-level central planning to actually reindustrialize. Just doing blanket tariffs makes no sense. I know.
We two friends fighting is exactly what our opponents around the world want to see. And now, to my fellow Canadians, I won't sugarcoat it. This is going to be tough, even though we're all going to pull together, because that's what we do. We will use
the craziest thing to watch is a leftist who was in the streets in the 90s and early 2000s against these trade agreements. Yeah. How do you think he's going to get out of it? I don't even know what the hell he's doing. I've just never seen a right-wing administration behave like this. Like, I've never really, even liberal administrations now don't behave like this. Like, I don't think it's like a repolarization happening in the two American major parties. I don't think that like Trump is now actively trying to bring back American manufacturing and create strong labor unions for Americans. Like, I just don't think that he's doing that. Because if he was doing that, he would not be actively destroying the administrative state. He would not be actively destroying the administrative state while simultaneously, yeah, this is from 2 months ago. Hold on. There's a newer version of this that I believe he did a couple days ago. I'm going to watch this instead. Yanis Varoufakis, former Greek finance minister, friend of the show, one of my favorite bald men, is on Rana Kalik's Dispatches on BT, Breakthrough News, talking about what possibly could be the reason for why Trump is doing all of the things that he's doing in terms of tariffs. Let's take a look.
And it is a rational plan. It is a well thought out plan. For me, it is a terrible plan in the sense that it works against the interests of the majority of Americans and against the interests of the majority of humanity. But we need to understand it before we fight it. And the liberal establishment are like headless chickens running around in the hope that somehow Trump is going to fail as a result of not having a plan. He's not going to have to fail because he doesn't have a plan. If he fails, he will fail because there will be people and movements that oppose him who understand his plan. So I just wanted to make this.
It's an important.
To begin with, to understand his plan, we have to understand his main gripe, his main discontent regarding the state of the United States. The vast majority of people around the world, and that includes me, we believe that, and I think we're not wrong to believe, that the United States has an exorbitant privilege, and that is the US dollar.
The US dollar and the US markets. Okay? America is an incredibly wealthy nation. And that's why even the poorest Americans, in comparison to like middle class people in Europe, for example, are still, when compared on the global marketplace, have a lot more purchasing power, right? Like that's why sometimes people will say stuff like, "Oh, well, you know, Alabama's like a wealthier than England," right? People say stuff like that all the time. Now, and that's true. There's truth to that. Your PC is totally freezing up. No, everything is fine on my end. What ended up happening, I think, is a server side issue on the Twitch side. Might depend where in the EU.
US dollar is the only kind.
Credit card debt is not purchasing power. Yes, it is. You're wrong. It quite literally is if you are someone who's selling goods in the American marketplace. It doesn't matter if it's being purchased with credit card debt. What matters is the money that you're getting. That's it. That's it. That's literally, like, I understand where you're coming from because it doesn't, that is precisely the reason why, if you simply look at GDP and if you simply look at purchasing power, you kind of fail to recognize that, like, Americans on average have a way worse quality of life than Europeans on average do, because European states at least like create a comfortable barrier of security and offer some social safety nets that Americans do not have and that they have to purchase in the private marketplace. This also then feeds back into the GDP, ironically enough. But in terms of selling goods into the American market, in terms of selling goods to the Americans, it doesn't matter if they're buying it with credit card debt or not. If you're a manufacturer of goods and you want to enter the American marketplace, you don't care if they're buying it with credit card debt. You don't care if they're buying it with predatory loans. Okay, you just care about them buying your goods. Okay, that's it.
To the world that is in demand independently of what the United States produces. So the only reason why you want the British pound is if you want to buy something produced in Britain, or if you want to go to Britain as a visitor, as a tourist. Nobody else wants pounds, really, maybe for speculation. Right? But, I'm speaking to you from Athens. When I put gas, petrol in my motorcycle, right, even if it is a Greek company buying petrol from a Greek or a French company that has purchased crude oil from, let's say, Libya. So there's no American corporation involved at all. That act of purchasing gas for my motorcycle increases.
Fix your PowerPoint, bro. I think, chatter, I think it's a you issue. I think you're going to have to refresh. The stream is, I believe, fine for everyone else.
The demand for dollars because oil is denominated in dollars. So that's exorbitant privilege of the United States. It's what allows, as I was saying before, the Germans to keep selling their net exports to the United States, the Chinese to do this, the Japanese to do it, and how this is all recycled through Wall Street, and it becomes rents for the rentier class in the United States. It becomes rents for the bankers in Wall Street, and so on and so forth. But Trump, while understanding all this and loving it, he loves the fact that the dollar has these exorbitant powers for the United States ruling class, and he's one of them. Nevertheless, he sees this exorbitant privilege also, or primarily, as an exorbitant burden. From his perspective, he's a nationalist. He doesn't like the fact that the United States can no longer build nuclear submarines because you don't have an engineering sector anymore. You're not producing enough steel. He once said back in the 80s, in 1982, 83, I saw a quote from him, that if you don't have steel, you don't have a country. And America is not producing steel anymore in any substantial quantities. It's China primarily, and also Germany. So for him, this exorbitant privilege, which he adores, comes with the exorbitant burden of effectively shrinking the United States. But then he has also an economic theory behind it, which leads him to conclude that this exorbitant privilege is not going to last long, that carnage will come to the United States. And I don't think he's wrong on this. His argument is this. Now, why does the United States have such a large trade deficit vis-a-vis Germany, Japan, China, and so on? Why is it that the market doesn't work? Because if Paul Krugman and all the other liberal establishment economists were right, that markets work to equilibrate through demand and supply prices, interest rates, and exchange rates, the dollar should have fallen because America has a trade deficit. Every country that has a trade deficit, its currency comes down. But why is the dollar not coming down? Because it has this exorbitant privilege, because people want it for other reasons. But from the perspective of Trump's team, not just Trump, but he has a team of economists around him who are not dodos, who are, quite smart. They may be evil, but they are smart. And what they realize is that that's their thinking, that's their analysis, that the reason why the dollar is not coming down is because the central banks of the foreign countries, of foreigners, foreign central banks, hoard dollars. Now, why do they hoard dollars? Because dollar is the reserve currency. Yeah. So when Germany sells cars to the United States, you have all these dollars going back to Germany. And what happens with these dollars? The vast majority of them, the dollars that are not returned by Mercedes-Benz to New York, they are hoarded by the Central Bank of Europe. Similarly, by the Bank of England, by the Bank of Switzerland, by the Bank of Sweden, by the Bank of Japan, by the Bank of China, increasingly. Right? $3 trillion is held by the Central Bank of Japan. $3,000 billion. That's not to be scoffed at. And why do they hold these dollars? Why don't they convert them into their own currency in order to increase economic activity? Because this is how they preserve their currency at low levels.
If you have a conscience, it's unbearable.
Here,
join us.
Because when you hoard these dollars, right, then the value of the dollar vis-a-vis your own currency goes up, and the competitiveness of your export sector is enhanced. And therefore, Trump says, you see, the foreigners are taking advantage of us. We are gifting them the reserve currency, which keeps their currencies down and keeps their currencies backstopped. Instead of holding gold or whatever, diamonds, they're holding our dollars. And in so doing, they are disadvantaging our exporters and they're advantaging their exporters who are importing into the United States. And
this is why he's mad at Japan. I mean, this is why America historically tanked. This is initially why America tanked the Japanese economy as well, which is like how in the 90s Japan turned into a multiple decade of I mean, still to this day has experienced stagnation, because if it's super cheap to make goods in Japan and then sell it to the American marketplace, also super cheap, then obviously it's just something that, you know, it's something that America is not going to be fond of. If the U.S. dollar is strong, exporting goods out of USA is hard because importing country needs to buy strong, i.e. expensive USD.
For you have the U.S. trade deficit. Okay, so
does China do this as well? Stockpile U.S. dollars? Of course, every country does, and yes, China does as well.
Here comes the story about the tariffs. Now, conventionally, liberal establishment economists think that Trump is an idiot because he can't see that tariffs can't work to eliminate the U.S. trade deficit. Their view is, and this is not wrong, where they are wrong is they think that Trump doesn't understand it. He doesn't understand it. What the story is that, yes, you slap tariffs on Chinese aluminum or Chinese plastics or Chinese clothes, right? But that will increase the price that American consumers have to pay, and that will jeopardize America's economy because it will push inflation up. But that at some point is not going to eliminate the trade deficit, because as this happens, the dollar will go up. And as the dollar goes up, in the end, American consumers will not be paying more, because even though they will have to pay the tariff, the dollar value will have gone up. So what they pay in Walmart is not going to be greater. Now, Trump knows that entirely. I've read policy papers that are circulating amongst his team, and they know this precisely, and they love it. You know why? Because that's...
No way Trump understands all that. No, it's not Trump that understands it. It's, guys, just like Joe Biden didn't run the American government unilaterally, Donald Trump is not running the American government unilaterally. He has a bunch of people around him that are telling him to make these decisions because they are setting what they perceive is going to be the future of the American economy. That's it. You think Donald Trump makes these decisions on his own? Of course not. Like, that's why Project 2025, I don't know what that is, when he was saying stuff like that, it was always ridiculous. Of course, he gets all of his notes from the Heritage Foundation and the American Enterprise Institute. Yes. And it's not just Elon Musk. There's an eclectic group of people that have similar goals and similar interests, which is like advancing the interests of capital and undermining the administrative state. And some of them might be at odds with one another in terms of like how America should do trade in the future. And that's a pretty significant disagreement. But ultimately, right now, as it stands, all of these guys are just holding on. Okay? They recognize that America is dying. It's a dying empire. And they want to pick apart the scraps. They're not necessarily known for long-term thinking and stability. Capital owners don't really think in decades. They think in quarters. They think in quarterly earnings reports, which is precisely the reason why they're like, all right, well, if America's dying, we might as well, pick the corpse apart for scraps while that is happening. Republicans making the money they didn't make in 4 years that they weren't inside the White House through insider trading? Not necessarily that either.
How they will get foreigners to pay for the tariffs. Because and here it is, something that they state explicitly in their policy papers. We slap tariffs on them. Their central banks will immediately reduce their interest rates to absorb the recessionary shock to their own economies from our tariffs. As they reduce interest rates, their currency is going to go down. The dollar will go up. In the end, the import prices, the prices that Americans pay will not have changed much, but something will have changed. The trade deficit will not be eliminated, but one thing will have changed. The foreigners will be paying us money. They will be paying for the tariffs. And that for the US administration, for the Trump administration, is great. not only will they be collecting the tariff money, but remember, Congress, and particularly the House of Reps, has the purse strings for tax receipts, but not for tariff receipts. To increase the amount of money that the US government gets from the American taxpayer, Trump has to convince Congress. And there he has a very thin majority, and there is just bedlam. He really doesn't want to have to negotiate with Congress.
I thought the prices were supposed to go up. Is that not true? No, I think it will. I mean, that is in the short term. I think that prices will go up. Having said that, however, this is Yanis Varoufakis trying to say that there is a reason for why Donald Trump's administration, like he's trying to figure out what could possibly be the logical reason. And it's one of the only explanations that I've heard thus far that at least like have some semblance of logic associated with it, that there is a reason for why he's doing this. And that is that he considers the power that the American dollar has a major issue with American manufacturing. And there's obviously truth to that as well, right? And that if he, by way of implementing these tariffs, he wants to force other countries to make their goods more expensive so that the American manufacturing comes back and other countries actually buy from the United States of America. But in the short term, this will absolutely harm the American economy as it stands.
But the moment he slaps the tariffs, the stream of money goes to the Treasury without any negotiation with Congress. And indeed, he can actually even spend this money. There are some legal impediments, but we know how much he respects those. And that's phase one. Nothing has been accomplished by the end of phase one to bring down the US trade deficit. He has increased his Treasury stake through the tariffs, and he's made the foreigners suffer and pay for it. And now comes phase two, which is a grand negotiation. Then he says to them, and this is not novel really, Reagan did that to the Japanese in 1985. Reagan gathered everybody. If you have ever heard of the so-called Plaza Accords of 1985, he gathered the European central bankers and so on, but primarily he had the Japanese there, and he put them under their thumb and said, similarly to what Trump wants to do, you're going to revalue the yen, or I'm going to slap tariffs on you. Now, Trump first slaps the tariffs and then says to the Chinese, to them, to the Germans, to the Saudis and so on, you are now going to revalue your currency. But how? You're going to take a chunk of the dollars that you're holding and you're going to sell them. That way, you are sell them, for your own currency. That way, you will revalue the euro, the yen, the yuan, and so on. Alternatively, if you don't have that many dollars, and the European Union, the Eurozone doesn't have that many dollars, it is the Japanese that have more than $1 trillion and the Chinese who have $3 trillion.
Yeah, Giannis is right. When you slap tariffs on countries will reduce their interest rates to protect their industry, so their currencies will go down against the dollar. Hence, the tariffs costs will be absorbed by those countries instead of the U.S., and prices won't go up. Maybe. I do not understand is that for that to work, factories and offices have to build first in the U.S. for this, and not only tax incentives have to be created, but bank loan and bank advantages have to be implemented. I think you're not fully understanding him. The price of the dollar goes up on the global market in the end, making foreign goods cheaper in the end while still getting tariff money. I do not foresee the price of goods immediately coming down or even staying relatively stable and then maybe in the long term creating a big boon in manufacturing, especially because in the short term, this will literally lead to layoffs, like mass layoffs in general. The chatter is wrong. When the US dollar increases in value, that means our exports are going to go up in price and the trade deficit will not close. The US also relies on non-substitutable goods abroad. Yeah, if you have, like, when it comes to raw materials, like, there is no substitute. What are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? If we just don't have it here, what are you supposed to do? He's not doing any carve-outs whatsoever. Maybe he will down the line, and I don't understand it. Or maybe he's signaling that he might do that, but he hasn't said anything about it. It just, like, doesn't make sense. Commerce Secretary Lutnick, Trump may roll back Canada and Mexico. I'm done. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why am I doing this? Why? Why are we doing this? What the hell is going on? What a goddamn clown show. Okay, I'm done. You can't. I'm officially placing Trump in the unique position that I've only placed one other global leader on, the Vladimir Putin insanity position. Okay, that's it. Officially, I'm done looking for reason behind his actions. I'm lying. I will always still try to find a logical reason why he's doing the things that he's doing, even if I disagree with it. But goddamn, it's just like it doesn't. April Fool's ass tariffs. The goal isn't entirely to bring manufacturing back to America. When the Canadian loonie goes down in worth and the American dollar gains value, America can then purchase the same Canadian products, lumber, etc., at a lower price since the American dollar is stronger. One day, just like your suspension, yeah. Donald Trump pulled a classic Hasanabi bait and switch.
I think in terms of what he wants, I heard he talked about banking again this morning in a tweet, which doesn't make any sense because American banks, there's about 16 American banks currently active in Canada holding about $113 billion worth of assets in this country. So the American banks are alive and well and prospering in Canada. It's an example of not really being able to see what it is that he wants, because even the excuse that he's giving for these tariffs today of fentanyl is completely bogus, completely unjustified, completely false. So we actually have to fold back on the one thing he has said repeatedly, that what he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy, because that'll make it easier to annex us. Now, first of all, that's never going to happen. We will never be the...
That's a crazy thing to be discussing as a world leader, by the way. The fact that your southern neighbor is led by an insane person, okay? The fact that you are a leader of a sovereign nation and your southern neighbors are led by a madman, that you have to factor in that he might be simply trying to weaken the Canadian economy and then make it easier to annex. Wild stuff, man.
51st state. But yeah, he can do damage to the Canadian economy, and he's started this morning. But he is rapidly going to find out, as American families are going to find out, that that's going to hurt people on both.
Welcome to Eastern Europe. Yeah.
And yeah, we're probably...
Yeah, he's doing the United Socialist States of America, okay? He's doing the United Soviet States of America, USA. You just add one more S, dude. It's over. Canada is it's not balkanizing. We're turning it into USA, Yugoslavia, the glorious Yugoslavia-ification of North America, the North American continent.
Probably going to keep booing the American anthem. But let me tell Americans, we're not booing.
Similar to what? Similar to Ukraine worrying about Russia? Look, I'm not making predictions. Like I said, I've learned my lesson from the past, okay? Donald Trump is a madman. I'm not making predictions about Donald Trump, just like I don't make predictions about Vladipu, okay? They sometimes do some insane stuff, okay? They engage in insanity. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what the logical through line is.
We're not booing your teams. We're not booing your players. We're booing a policy that is designed to hurt us. And we're insulted. And we're angry, but we're Canadian, which means we're going to stand up for each other. We're going to fight, and we're going to win.
So, Harris, let's get to this really quick.
Trump was Governor Trudeau on notice for criticizing tariffs. Please explain to Governor Trudeau of Canada. Governor. He calls him Governor Trudeau because he's saying like it's a part of the American empire now. That when he puts on a retaliatory tariff in the U.S., our reciprocal tariff will immediately increase by a like amount. U.S. Commerce Secretary says the tariffs on Canada are just getting started. But here's also Howard Lutnick talking about Mexicans and Canadians. There, let's take a look.
He's going to come out today angry that Americans are still being killed. Now, both the Mexicans...
The fentanyl stuff is ridiculous, by the way. It is like the stupidest way to package it. It is straightforwardly the dumbest way to try and package this, to be like, oh yeah, we're doing this for fentanyl.
Mexicans and the Canadians were on the phone with me all day today trying to show that they'll do better. And the president's listening because you know he's very, very fair and very reasonable. So I think he's going to work something out with them. It's not going to be a pause, none of that pause stuff, but I think he's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle some way, and we're going to probably be announcing that tomorrow. So somewhere in the middle will likely be the outcome. The president moving with the Canadians and Mexicans, but not all the way.
Just to clarify,
he's going to come out today angry that Americans are still being killed. Now, both the Mexicans and the Canadians were on the phone with me all day today trying to show that they'll do better. And the president's listening because you know he's very, very fair and very reasonable. So I think he's going to work something out with them. It's not going to be a pause, none of that pause stuff, but I think he's going to figure out, you do more and I'll meet you in the middle some way, and we're going to probably be announcing that tomorrow. So somewhere in the middle will likely be the outcome. The president moving with the Canadians and Mexicans, but not all the way.
Just to clarify,
he's going to come out today angry that Americans are still being killed. Now, both the Mexicans and the Canadians were on the phone with me all day today trying to show that they'll do better. And the president's listening because you know he's very, very fair and very reasonable. So I think he's going to work something out with them. It's not going to be a pause, none of that pause stuff, but I think he's going to figure out, you do more.
Sorry. Okay. This is what Hassan should be banned for? Okay. I didn't realize it was only 30 seconds long. Is there a way that we can do an annulment of this past election, some kind of recall? Nope. How would the tariffs even affect the trafficking of fentanyl? No, it's just like, it is an incredibly silly legal justification for why Trump is engaging in these retaliatory tariffs. He can't just be like, I'm just going to tariff you because I want to cripple your economy, or I'm just going to tariff you for this or that reason. So he has to come up with a reason for why he's doing this. And in his mind, the best way to package this is by talking about issues that he talked about throughout the election, which is fentanyl deaths. Okay. He has no legal power to do it without declaring an emergency on fent. Okay. Well, let's continue with this.
President Trump just responding to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, writing this on Truth Social, quote, please explain to Governor Trudeau of Canada that when he puts on a retaliatory tariff on the U.S., our reciprocal tariff will immediately increase by a like amount. Harris, the fight began on your show with Trudeau, and it doesn't seem like Trump's backing down.
Well, look, I mean, he's not President Trump. He is a prime minister of a neighboring country on its way out, on his way out. And I don't think he gamed out the things that he said and the effect that it could potentially have on the Canadian people. He made a selfish move today, and he called the president of the United States dumb. So, look, or his actions dumb. It effectively is the same thing, the way he put it. So, look, I mean, this is not going to lift Canada's position at all, and it just makes the art of the deal much more difficult for Trudeau on behalf of his country, and he's running out of time. So we're dealing with him now. In 30 days, the process, or less than 30 days by the end of this month, begins to replace him per his exit announcement about a month and a half ago. So then we're going to be dealing with somebody else. I mean, if he really wants, he has nothing to lose. I put this out there, but I think, you know, he's legacy leadership in that country. He is marring the name Trudeau for times to come. He needs to Zelensky this. Either get on your X, pick up the phone, and say, look, here's what I meant, and clean it up on aisle 7. We'll see if it happens.
You know, and Sandra, as we think about this, you know, I just think back to first term and some of the headlines like Politico, Trump drops tariff threat on Mexico after migration deal is reached. And we remember the USMCA, the impetus for that was a tariff threat. And you end up getting this trade deal. So a lot of times with Trump, he's taking these moves, he's making these moves, and you wonder if it's pursuant to something that comes on the horizon. But you have to have another leader on the other side willing to concede. And with Trudeau, he doesn't have a lot to lose on his way out the door.
Well, remember, he's ginned up a lot of support for this by saying we're not going to be taken advantage of it anymore. And if he sticks to that message, he'll continue to get support for this. This is obviously playing out in a very public way. I was just taking a peek at the markets to see if there was a reaction to the president's response. And if anything, the markets have come off of their lows.
Oh, look at that.
Bro, look, I give all glory to Jusha, okay, all the time, to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So please do not misunderstand me when I say this, but this is literally the old Korean lady on television. Okay. This is crazy. I mean, someone's got to have that dear leader link. I mean, come on. Does the market price in radicalizing your northern neighbors to loathe you? No. It does kind of feel like they're doing the. Did you just send me a Russia Today link? That's crazy. That's crazy, chatter. There's no other link that has actually no other outlet talking about Claudia statements. Are you trying to get me clapped again? Well, what the hell? Are you trying to get me destroyed again by libs? Libs are going to be like, there it is. Yeah, this is Fox News. That's my coat. I love her. Okay. I love her. She's amazing.
Right. So, I mean, this is fascinating to see this play out in such a public way.
How do investors see this?
Uncertainty. You know, I don't think you can look at the market and just say that it's saying it doesn't like the tariffs or it loves the tariffs because the market's up one day or down one day. Just uncertainty, investors cannot stand. And so markets will go down if they don't know what's happening next. And perhaps that's what we're seeing right now.
Some certainty, maybe Canada will call.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
Western chauvinist? No. I actually like her. I don't like these people, but I like her. She deserves the new flat that she got. That was gifted to her by Kim Jong-un, okay?
We'll all wait with bated breath to see what happens next. This is all playing out.
To be fair, they granted Biden the same amount of charity. No, that's not true. I mean, they did on certain issues, like when they talked about how brilliant he was and how he wasn't actually mentally decrepit. But, bro, there is no comparison here. Like Fox News to Donald Trump versus CNN to Joe Biden is crazy. Like they actively lie to the American public about his mental faculties. That much is true. But when Joe Biden would do stuff, they would absolutely laser him in the off chance that he actually did anything really. I don't know, pulling out of Afghanistan. Do you not remember? They constantly also harped on him for not being right-wing enough. They constantly harped on him for not being right-wing enough in terms of the migrant crisis at the border. They like actively hammered him.
Rather dramatically ahead of tonight's joint address to Congress.
Yeah, that's going to be at 6 p.m. Doug Ford warns Trump he will cut off energy to the U.S. with a smile on my face if it comes to it. Okay?
Nervous? Yeah, they're nervous because of President Trump. We have to make sure you have two choices here, folks. We roll over as a country and just let them run over us, or we fight like hell, like we've never fought before. I'm taking option 2. I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people. I said, number 1, I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop, I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchase over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's going to hit them. We would call them the kitchen table issues. Then we're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for him, but it's principle. I've directed the procurement of over $30 billion of goods, not to go to the U.S., to make sure we buy Ontario first. And if we can't find it in Ontario and we can't build it in Ontario, we go across the country.
All right.
And our retaliation is going to be surgically targeted to create the maximum pressure on the White House to stop what the Wall Street Journal has described quite rightly as the dumbest.
Dude, if Canada does a BDS on America, it would be so awesome. I mean, look, more power to you guys, okay? More power to you, okay? Developing resentment towards America KKK in this way, perhaps it should have happened for a million different reasons and for better ones. But I'll take it where I can get it. Canadians, I am with you. Let your chat know that Doug Ford is a monster. Calling him base is gross. Yeah, for sure. This is also making the worst people in Canadian politics look good, too, especially in the eyes of Canadians in general.
Trade war in history. an example of a measure that
Just don't boycott me, okay? I'm a anti-imperialist, anti-American content creator, so please keep building a carve out for your BDS Canadian Hasanabi heads, and please keep subscribing with your Canadian dollars, even if it's not at the top of the hour, okay? Which you can do for, I think, what is it, like $6-7 Canadian dollars, or for free with a Twitch Prime. You can still use your Twitch Prime to subscribe, especially if you couldn't resubscribe yesterday because I got banned, for those of you who don't know. So it's 8 CAD. Okay, $8 CAD. Don't worry, you're an honorary member of the Quebec Libre movement. We got you. I am. This is true. Canuck Bucks. Yeah. Like this is actually correct. Here's the other thing. Where is it? Doug Ford just won another election. I think it was in large part due to his response to the tariffs. He will continue to dismantle healthcare in Ontario. Exactly. So Trump's idiotic actions against Canada has unironically made people like Doug Ford look better. And now with that popularity, with that popular mandate, Doug Ford will continue to undermine social services in Ontario. So what is this? Got a new contract while he was banned? Unbelievable. I did not get a new contract. I am not running ads. I was kidding. Subscribing, which you don't have to do, but if you want to, you can subscribe. You can send me links if you subscribe. You can clip stuff. You get some amenities. What? Squeak says some choice words for your video. What is this? I've probably been banned.
So cool. You sound like a vibrator. Sorry.
That's crazy. That's crazy. What's up, everyone? If you're seeing this, that means I've probably been banned. That's right.
Sorry.
That's crazy. I'll take it. Much better than XQ Snake, dude. XQ called out Twitch for unbanning Hasanabi only one day after suspending him. Just comical, dude. What a joke, dude. He said, Snake. XQ Snake. You're the snake, baby. Why are you surrounded by backstabbers for real? Come on, dude. Look at the industry. Like, yes, Twitch streaming is... Look, there are a lot of wonderful people that I've met in this career, okay? And then there are a lot of people who have absolutely abused my charitable nature over and over again. It's not surprising. If you've been following any of the XCC drama between me and him for the past couple of years, I think you know where he stands on all these issues. He is actively trying to win back people now, and, you know, more power to him, but he's always going to farm me. The quicker you understand that a lot of people have wrecked financial incentives and that's the only thing they care about and nothing else, the easier you will make sense of how people operate in this industry. It's just the truth. You should farm him, to be honest. I don't give a shit. He's already rich. What do you mean? I know he is. And in the process, he shed a lot of he basically forced a lot of people's hands into just like shutting him out. He'll still be able to collaborate with many other people. He has a massive audience. And eventually, if he's like even a little bit nice to them, that a lot of content creators will return and collaborate with him and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, he's talked about how lonely he feels and how shitty this industry is without recognizing that it's because he treated everybody like shit. There is virtually no other way to describe this. Okay? That's it. He has actively treated every single content creator in his orbit like shit. No matter how nice people have been to him. If you smell dog poop everywhere you go, you wake up and you smell shit. Go to the coffee shop, you smell shit. Maybe it's not everywhere else that smells like shit. Maybe you are the one who stepped in the shit. Or maybe you are the piece of shit. And it's not just XCC. A lot of content creators have major egos, myself included. You know, it's understandable. It is what it is. Let's get back to the, where was it? Let's get back to the tariff, 100% tariffs on Teslas. Canadian Prime Minister candidate reveals tariff response plans against the United States. I was considering writing a piece based on why so many people attack you over other left-wing voices online. The far right is a term for the jockeying that happens in spaces that are before politics, but which create the cultural narratives that far right use to convert people. Metapolitics. You exist in gaming and anime spaces as a left-winger and someone who completely debunks all the stereotypes the right likes to use to discredit the left is why you get so much heat. Yeah, it's also why I have also retained a relatively sizable audience in spite of all of that. And I think that really pisses people off. That's what it is. That frustrates a lot of people where they're like, why do people still subscribe to him? Why do people still support this guy? He's bad. Look at all of my friends that say he's bad. Do you think you still attract new audiences considering the hate train you get? Yeah. I think the hate train is so overwhelming and so consistent that I think a lot of people go, I'm going to look into this myself. There are plenty of people who come in here and they're like, okay, well, maybe I was a little misguided about the way that people presented you. And I think that funnels in new people all the time. Because like I've seen this quite a bit, especially with like the Ethan Klein stuff, where Ethan is not exactly a popular content creator either. He's been around for quite a long time, and a lot of people have made up their minds on him. And some people like him a lot, and a lot of people also despise him online. Some of the reasons why a lot of people despise him online are ridiculous reasons and bad reasons. And there's also good reasons for why people are angry at him as well. And in that process, when he just like engaged in the extensive crash out, people go, okay, well, his insanity caused me to go and take a look, you know? Because you can't maintain a reasonable approach if you're actively just like going, everything and anything that this person does is wrong, and I'm going to assume the exact opposite, the exact opposite position. People are just gonna be like, all right, well, you know, maybe I'll make up my mind on my own.
Buenos días a todos. Hemos decidido responder con medidas arancelarias y no arancelarias que anunciaré en plaza pública el próximo domingo. No es de ninguna manera o el propósito.
My goat Claudia, I wish Mexico would annex. I wish Mexico would annex America so that we could be under the protectorate of Claudia Sheinbaum. It is by no means our purpose to start an economic or trade confrontation, which unfortunately and regrettably is the opposite of what we should be doing. That is, integrating our economies more to strengthen our region. Nobody wins with this decision. On the contrary, it affects the people we represent. To the Mexican women and men, ooh, she's woke. She said women first. I remind you that we have based the growth for the last 6 years on the strengthening of the domestic market, the creation of jobs through public investment, and the increase in minimum wage and welfare programs. Amazing. Also, retaliatory tariffs are coming in from China as well. I'm an example of making up my mind on my own. I feel like the hate Hassan gets is pretty unfair. Do I agree with everything Hassan says? No, but I also don't understand the level of hate that is directed this way. It's parasocial. That's what it is. A lot of people have parasocial desires to do right by their favorite content creators. And when their favorite content creators are actively making money constantly and consistently saying, I'm the worst person on the planet, on the face of the planet every single day, they start believing them. I don't even fault those people, to be honest. I genuinely don't fault those people because most people are busy. They got jobs. They don't have time to come in and tune in and make up their own minds about a content creator. It just kind of like washes away. And they just develop that resentment without really considering it because the content creator that they trust is actively poisoning the well. The people, however, that do actually follow through on the brigading and consistently freaking out over this kind of thing, that's a little different. Like that is, you know, how are you engaging in what you consider to be a righteous battle for a random content creator? My guy, you also say some really dumb shit sometimes. Yeah. Well, again, I'm a Twitch streamer. Of course I say dumb shit from time to time. Perhaps even all the time. Like, what do you mean? Who doesn't say dumb shit? Do you not say dumb shit on a day-to-day basis? The only difference is you're not saying it in front of 50,000 people and you don't have active people trying to clip that and immediately be like, see, this is bad. And also, you know, weaponizing their misunderstanding. The dumb shit they're referring to is all right. That would be a beautiful future, let me tell you. Yeah, so many people you meet or collab IRL say that they assumed you were a meme based on all the clip chimps of you out there. Yep. Let's continue. Let's see what the Chinese retaliatory tariffs look like.
China. Let's get to China as that country does retaliate against these tariffs. Our Eunice Yoon is in Beijing with the latest. Hi, Eunice.
Hey, Carl. Well, the Chinese government, as you guys had mentioned, had threatened all necessary measures, countermeasures, when it comes to their reaction. But this batch actually was relatively limited. Minutes after President Trump's tariffs had kicked in, China announced tariffs on the agricultural sector for the main part. This was 10 to 15% tariffs on imports of soybeans, sorghum, beef, fruits, chicken, corn, cotton, wheat. In one case, or in some of the cases, China is the biggest buyer of these products, such as soybeans and cotton. During President Trump's first trade war, China had also targeted agricultural products, and at that time it was really seen as a political calculation that China would want to target President Trump's political base. Now, this time the Chinese also imposed various business restrictions on more than 25 companies. 10 of them were added to an unreliable entity list, so they're blacklisted. 15 added to export control list. A lot of these firms are, for the most part, in the defense industry, don't have a whole lot of business in China, if any at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like America's letting China purchase American weapons anyway, right?
And had already been sanctioned by Beijing. The one interesting company was among all of these was Illumina. This was the company that had been blacklisted in February after President Trump's February tariffs had kicked in. That company has now been banned from importing its gene sequencer machines, and China does account for 7% of Illumina's sales. That was the most high-profile corporate among the group, so it does give you a sense that we're seeing a lot of action, a lot of noise with these measures, but no household names.
Eunice, our Commerce Secretary was on a few moments ago, really emphasizing the element about fentanyl. And the Journal piece today reads, Chinese officials have said in recent weeks that U.S. tariffs make them less likely to help solve the fentanyl problem. Is that true?
For President Xi Jinping, he is not going to be like the Canadian or Mexican leaders, not going to be seen as somebody who would pick up the phone and try to work something out with President Trump and be seen as kind of bending the knee to President Trump, to the Chinese public. So President Xi would probably go to Trump on his own terms. And that is really important for the Chinese leadership to make sure that their public knows that, or at least believes that, President Xi is in control.
Eunice, when it comes to some of these agricultural products, chicken, wheat, corn, cotton, 15% tariffs, are there other places the Chinese are going to be able to go to find those kinds of agricultural products at a lesser price? Do you know?
Definitely. They've been doing this. They've been diversifying since 2018. So they've been moving to looking at Brazil for the most part for, say, corn. They've been trying to reduce a lot of their reliance on the U.S. when it comes to these agricultural products. And that's expected to continue, especially in this climate.
Now, Eunice, I also remember, I'm sure we had a conversation around this at the time, when we reached, under the last Trump administration, there was a deal reached with China in some way that involved them buying a lot of agricultural products. I don't
Bricks rising.
remember the exact target number, but I don't believe it was ever met.
Right. That has been one of the sticking points that the Trump administration, as well as a lot of other folks in the U.S., have said about that 2020 trade deal, the Phase 1 trade deal. There's been some discussion, though, ironically here, that the Chinese will want to return to that 2020 Phase 1 trade deal, that they would agree to buy a lot of U.S. products, not only agricultural products, but from their perspective, a lot of high-tech products, not something necessarily that the U.S. Would want to see. But there is this belief that the Chinese leadership does prefer going back to that kind of grander economic deal.
Yep.
I saw you on Trash Taste, thought you were a pretty cool guy, saw the hate and decided to come check you out. Well, Make no mistake, chatter. This is a very scary and very dangerous community. Very, very scary. The things that we talk about in here. It's also weird though, because like virtually every single person that spends an insane amount of time saying how bad I am end up making a fool of themselves in the process. I don't know why. Spooky, scary. I'm a bad boy. I used to be a hate watcher. Now, after a while of being here, I still hate watch, except now I hate watch hogs through you. Nice. All right, we're going to get to the second thing that the Trump administration did in my absence, which is, of course, cutting weapons supplies to Ukraine. It turns out that the American government, shockingly, is capable of stopping weapons transfers to a foreign nation. I'm shocked to find out, because I've been covering this, Israel stuff for quite a while, and I never knew that that was a reality for the American government. I thought that there was just nothing that could potentially stop the flow of weapons to a foreign nation. Of course, we're doing that to a country that is, defending itself from a Russian invasion, and not necessarily a country that is doing ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. But before we get to all of that, let's watch the Trump supporters walking away from CNN interview when pressed about Musk's actions, because I do want to see the hogs here. This is quite literally hogs going hog wild.
You know somebody smarter
than Elon Musk?
That's right.
You can be smart and immoral. You can be smart and make bad decisions.
You are 100% right about that. There's no doubt about that. It does not give me pause. I'm 100% Team Musk.
Josh Evan Kirkland is one of the people we spoke to at a hog show in Nahunta, Georgia. We first came to Brantley County right before the election because it was the most pro-Trump county in a swing state in 2020. People had had a strong emotional connection to President Trump, and they thought Trump was for them instead of the elites. So we wanted to see what they made of billionaire Elon Musk.
There's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about Musk, and he's a brilliant man himself. I think a lot of people are scared that the two of them have teamed up.
Last time we were here,
I love this. I mean, this is straight up my favorite thing. As you guys know, people who sell Trump merch, like their entire lives revolve around getting products from China and drop shipping products from China and just like selling it to dumb American hogs. It's awesome.
Kathy Hendricks sold Trump merch in a corner of her boutique.
Yeah. People who will perhaps suffer the most. People who will perhaps suffer the most from tariffs on China.
I sold out of everything. Yeah. I sold out of all my Trump stuff. I have sold the daddy's home.
Why do people like that, calling Trump daddy?
There is a security in daddy. Mama is the one that runs everything. Mama's the one that does everything, but there is a security in daddy. When daddy wraps his arms around you, you feel like the whole world is just, you're safe. And
this is pure sexual pathology. Straight up. Amazing. Fantastic. Okay, this is, I mean, it's not interesting. This is at the heart of a lot of the reception for Trump. That is what it is. So much. When did Hogwatch become Goonwatch, bro? Listen, he gets the Debras and the Barbaras quaking, okay? That Barbussy is quaking.
Everything's going to be okay.
And that's the way they mean it?
And that's the way they mean it.
Because, you know, on the internet at least, sometimes it has like a sexual meaning.
Oh, Lord.
So what do you think of the job he's done so far?
It's like Christmas morning every single day.
Egg prices are $35 a carton. Let me tell you, Christmas morning. I love him. But what has he done that has noticeably improved your life in a meaningful fashion in the past 30 plus days that he's been in office? Almost 44 days that he's been in office. What has he done? It's so crazy. Made them come? Yeah. I guess.
Hendricks introduced us to Candace Taylor, who declared she's running for Congress that very day on Steve Bannon's War Room podcast.
I wanted to announce with you are loyal to President Trump. God anoints people. He's anointed President Trump. So if Elon Musk wants to cut trillions of...
I mean, this is, the accent is off, but this is kingdom come ass bullshit, okay? Our Heavenly Father has anointed the Lordship in the position of absolute authority. My Lord, My liege, my life for you, my liege. Heed the bounties of the... I do not need access to the common good, nor do I need the eggs that my chickens lay. It's all for you, my lordship.
Of dollars out of this budget, and if my family has to tighten our belt and not go on vacation because of it, I'm down with that.
Oh, wait. Oh my God. She literally did that. I was joking.
Trump. So if Elon Musk wants to cut trillions of dollars out of this budget, and if my family has to tighten our belt and not go on vacation because of it, I'm down with that.
What? What the hell? Bro. Oh my God. Oh my, it's so good. It's amazing. Yeah, no, I don't need goods. It's for a greater cause.
So you welcome some personal financial hardship if you think in the long run it will help.
Yeah, I've already experienced it.
Under Biden, with inflation, I mean, were you happy to pay the higher prices, or did you think that was a failing of his presidency?
It was a tremendous failing.
All right, how long are you willing to wait for the economic...
I'm sorry. How do you not? What? You don't understand what's going on here? You just said the economic hardships are fine because our Heavenly Father anointed Donald Trump to be president. The economic hardships of Biden was a tremendous failure. Like in the same, what? How? Like, do you not have any self-preservation skills? Like, I don't understand how these people don't realize that, like, they look like absolute dumbasses. It's just, you sound like you're in a cult. I mean, you are in a cult. It is a cult. This is cultish thinking. Was Biden anointed by God? No. That's right. Didn't think so. True. Fair. Facts. You're right.
Economic changes you're hoping to see for the prices to come down?
Oh, I'm good if President Trump wants to run in 2028.
In 2022, Taylor ran in the Republican primary for governor with a Jesus Guns Baby slogan and lost.
But why run for Congress if some billionaire can just undo whatever budget you passed, whatever laws you passed?
Oh, he's not undoing everything. He's dealing with stuff that's frivolous.
Most people we spoke to were enthusiastic about Musk. We did meet 3 people who had some concerns about the firing of federal workers, but the only one who wanted to say so on camera was Corbett Wilson, one of the rare Trump skeptics we found last time we visited.
Prices of groceries, egg prices haven't gone down since Trump took office.
Give him a little bit of time. Will you come back in a year or 2 years? Let's look at the halfway point, because we all know everything takes time.
Well, he promised it on the first day.
He promises to take
And anybody
steps.
that believed that's crazy.
He also said that it would probably be a little more painful to start with, but it would get better. We got to give him...
Everybody's waiting on that.
Well,
you're talking about contractors.
I think in some respects, liberals have tainted, in their own base of support, they've tainted like populism as an effective communication tool so much. And they just actively undermine people that could actually reach these guys so much. People like Bernie Sanders, that they've made way for someone like Donald Trump to come in and basically brainwash these people. I mean, there's a lot of internalized resentment there that plays a role as well. Like, because Trump is playing on a lot of the things that they care about, a lot of things that television has told them they should be afraid of, right? I guess my point is I'm jealous. I'm jealous that like economic hardships in the short term are likely for anyone that changes the trajectory of American empire or changes the trajectory of the American economy, right? Make no mistake. I think that if there was some kind of communist Trump, for example, a laughable notion for many different reasons, I'm not going to get into it right now, but if there was a situation like that, like, I'm sure that there would be some economic struggle in the interim when you're, breaking the system only to rebuild it. But the reality of the matter is no one would entertain this. Like, no one would ever entertain this. Even sidestepping away from the way things work by a liberal administration, by like 1%, by a tiny sliver margin, would cause people to, do riots in America. Okay, these people are the same people that lost their minds when, ironically enough, Donald Trump was the one who told them that they can't get haircuts. Donald Trump immediately turned around and said, okay, it's up to the states. I mean, he buckled, he caved. He did not care about the preservation of American health. I don't know. I can't help but feel jealous that Trump has this level of brainwashing capabilities on these kinds of Americans who support him. Where even if he does things that Americans truly care about, which is like cost of goods, they're still like, no, it's going to be better. It's going to get better. Jealous? Yes, I am. I am jealous.
Elon's a contractor too. Who looks into him?
There needs to be somebody.
Nobody questions his bills.
Do you trust Elon Musk?
Absolutely.
He's a government contractor. He's got business interests, whether in defense, internet, that kind of thing. He's also admitted to drug use. He smoked pot on Joe Rogan's show. Do you trust him as like a stable, rational, and reasonable person to be doing this job?
Yes.
Hey, he's a Republican. You ain't gonna talk him out of that.
There's potheads all over this country. Y'all sitting here trying to bash one man for what, 99% of this country, Republican or Democrat. Corbett, this whole dadgum town smokes pot. Democrat Party.
No, dadgummit.
The conversation devolved quickly.
I mean, he looks like the perfect guy to say dadgum. Unlike that one sitting U.S. representative we were talking about.
Not anticipated the emotional connection when he already felt with Musk.
This is
dadgummit.
He sat on TV and smoked pot.
Yes, do you
Well,
want
I
me to
haven't. I
pull
don't
up the
care.
video?
I'm saying it don't matter. But that makes him unqualified to do a job.
Well, I'm just saying, does the
She's
question
coming in here with ignorant arguments. She ain't talking facts.
Does it raise any questions
You're
about his
I can prove
judgment?
you a Democrat by the level of ignorance that you portray.
Let's
We
just
listen
show
to that.
it.
Donald Trump, Elon Musk, please drain the swamp. While you there, get the job done.
In cult psychology, this is referred to as a thought terminating term. Okay? Get her done. Get the job done. Drain the swamp. It's over. The conversation is over at that point. Okay? He just hit the line and he's moving on. He does not like the contradictions that have been exposed. He's double fisting the soda, which I love. Okay? Respect to this big boy. Normalize not being jealous of sociopaths, lol. Dude, I don't care what the mental faculties of a person are if they're bringing healthcare, if they're bringing Medicare for all to the table. I don't care. Yeah, I'd rather have a sociopathic pro-Medicare for all candidate who is able to, in the most charismatic ways possible, able to whip up support for it. I can't stress this enough. You know what I mean? Pretty sure one's a spit cup. That's right. That's right, baby, because he's brave, bold, and a goddamn patriot. All right, let's talk about Zelensky. Okay? As I said earlier, turns out that the American government does have the capability of stopping the flow of weapons to a foreign nation. You might have been confused by this. You might have been shocked by this if you were watching anything happening with Israel. It seems like we have an inability to stop the flow of weapons to a country that is offensively committing a genocide. But we certainly do have the capabilities of stopping the flow of weapons to a country that is defending itself from a foreign nation. So let's take a look, as Donald Trump has said yesterday that he is going to stop the weapons flow into Ukraine. Here is the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying what Ukraine will do next without U.S. aid. Dear Ukrainians, today many people have the same question. What will happen next with U.S. assistance? I've instructed Ukraine's Minister of Defense, the heads of our intelligence agencies, and our diplomats to contact their counterparts in the United States. Are you going to stay on until the State of the Union tonight? It's at 6 p.m. So yes, the answer is yes. I will be live and alive during the State of the Union. It's not an official State of the Union, by the way. To contact their counterparts in the United States and to obtain official information. People should not have to guess. Ukraine and America deserve a respectful dialogue and a clear position from one another, especially when it comes to protecting lives during a full-scale war. Of course, in Ukraine, we have been receiving various signals for weeks now, and there's already been a precedent for aid being halted. There was a suspension of humanitarian aid, of energy aid. There was also a halt in military aid at the end of January, but at that time, everything was quickly resumed. We saw the risks. Therefore, our agencies, both military and special services, managed to develop action algorithms for any developments in the situation. This is not 2022 anymore. Our resilience is stronger now. We have the means to defend ourselves. But for us, maintaining normal partnership-based relations with America is essential to bringing the war to a real end. No one wants an endless war. Ukraine will always be grateful to the U.S. for all the support that has been and is being provided, which is working to preserve the now rather fragile foundation of security in Europe. After all, this is not just about our country. It is about everyone in Europe. We seek constructive cooperation, partnership-based relations. We can only regret what happened at the White House instead of our negotiations. But we must find the strength to move forward, to respect one another, just as we have always respected America, Europe, and all of our partners, and to do everything together to bring peace closer. And thank everyone who is supporting Ukraine in this effort. Today I've spoken with the President of Finland. What? Yeah, Trump already claimed that they got the deal, I know. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Prime Minister of Greece, Prime Minister of Croatia, and NATO Secretary General, and the leader of Germany's CDU party, Friedrich Merz, the very party that won the recent Bundestag elections, clear support for Ukraine. Thank you. About significant funds. And then he just talks about Ukraine deserve respect. Here, he says that there's consultations. Ukrainians deserve peace. Ukrainians deserve respect. Their positions or demands regarding Ukraine. We know, okay, here. We know the Russians have not changed their positions or demands regarding Ukraine. They will insist on reducing our army. They will seek a legal renunciation of our territories, as well as a significant political deformation of Ukraine with a weakening of the Ukrainian constitution. Okay, I can't read the rest of that, so... Is it possible for Trump to leave NATO? Liberals I know seem to believe not. I don't think so either, but who knows, man? He is pretty spicy. Why am I seeing some of my leftist friends talking about how the peace talks are actually good and that everyone against them are warmongers? I mean, peace talks are actually good. I am one of those leftists as well. I think that peace talks are good. I've been an advocate for peace talks and an advocate to bring Vladimir Putin to the table. The problem with Donald Trump is that he's bringing Vladimir Putin to the table in the worst possible ways while undermining Ukraine and the Ukrainian position. Ukraine has understandable demands in this negotiations process. Okay? What do you mean? We have used and abused Ukrainians as we've given them our older weapons and basically told them, you know, you're kind of on your own there. All right, go off. Defend your nation from being invaded. Doesn't Zelensky support Israel? Yes, of course he does. He is. He also has been groveling for American support for, while also still trying to maintain some semblance of dignity at the same time. But like, obviously, he's still going to do what Big Dog tells him to do. And you need to understand something. You know, his support for Israel might be because he truly loves Israel. His support for Israel might also most likely be because he obviously can't say anything about Israel. Israel, alongside the United States of America and Russia, voted not to condemn Russia for invading Ukraine a couple weeks ago. He has no choice in this process. Zelensky has no choice in this process. Okay? He does not. Trump's foreign policy of neo-imperialism is very dangerous, but Dems and centrist elites, the Atlantic crowd, are doing a very good job of explaining why, because they're obsessed with the discredited narratives, Putin's puppet, and NATO fetish. Actually explaining how neo-imperialism will lead to more wars would be better. Jason Ponton, I'm really not enjoying the latest iteration of Jeet here as a more literate version of Glenn Greenwald, far more animated by opposition. The forces of reaction wouldn't be winning if it weren't for the incompetence and intellectual myopia of centrist elites. We have to solve the centrist problem to have a fighting chance against fascism. I agree. Complaining Zelensky supporting Israel is like complaining that Gaza doesn't have gay rights law. Not entirely. Because one is a defense of an apartheid genocide, an apartheid state doing a genocide with American weapons that unironically ends up harming the Ukrainian position. And the other is a group of people that have been captive by a belligerent occupier being genocided. Like, Ukraine is still, at the end of the day, a sovereign nation, you know? No. A better comparison would be like saying Ukrainians don't have gay rights either, so they're not woke. I don't care about that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, oh, Ukraine is not woke about gay and trans people either is a incredibly stupid argument to bring forward in terms of like defending Ukraine.
More than 24 hours after Donald Trump abruptly paused all U.S. military aid to Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling his Oval Office spat with the president regrettable. In a new post on X, he reiterates Ukraine's commitment to peace.
Yeah, I mean, he's like slowly walking it back.
Writing, quote, "None of us wants an endless war." He adds that Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table. And although Zelensky doesn't use the post to directly apologize to Trump, as some White House officials have argued he should do, he did express his gratitude for U.S. support, something he has done frequently, including during an address to Congress the first time he visited the United States as president of Ukraine after Russia invaded the country. White House officials say the pause in aid will stand until President Trump determines Zelensky is serious about working out a peace plan and a path to end the war with Russia. Losing assistance from the United States, especially its Patriot missile defense system, could have dire consequences for Ukraine. The Prime Minister of Ukraine says it's the only tool the country has to protect itself from Russian ballistic missiles. Joining us now to discuss is retired U.S. Army Major Mike Lyons. Sir, thank you so much for being with us. Right off the bat, what is the effect of this pause in U.S. aid to Ukraine on the battlefield?
Well, Boris, I don't see any.
I'm confused. What does Zelensky have to apologize for? Okay. Let me explain this one more time because there's a lot of new people in here. Okay. What the truth is on an entirely different zip code, if not an entirely different planet than what must happen for Trump. Okay? Zelensky can't do anything. Donald Trump has made up his mind. He thinks Zelensky is bad. He is a liberal. He's annoying. And because Donald Trump and the American government holds all the cards, okay, they can basically keep humiliating him and bullying him in broad daylight over and over and over again. There's nothing he can do in this process. If he wore a suit, that wouldn't have changed the dynamic. If he said thank you more, even though he said thank you a million times in this conversation that took place in the Oval Office, that would not have changed the dynamic. Okay? They hate him. He kissed the ring a million times over, and they still claim he's not kissing the ring hard enough. Now, there's also the truth of the matter. If you look at the circumstances in front of Ukraine, they're running out of manpower. And the additional weapons that are sent into Ukraine is not necessarily going to change the dynamic of the battlefield, at least according to seemingly the American State Department as well. Okay? This is precisely the reason why there needs to be a managed negotiation to end the Russian occupation without America looking like they suffered any sort of blow. And I think Trump's attitude here is basically to say, oh, I wasn't even in favor of Ukraine to begin with, in a way to save face. If I were to go inside of Trump's mind, okay, and try to understand how he operates, I suspect that he looks at the situation as there's nothing more you can do. Like, you know, they've taken 20% of your territory. There's not really anything you can do without American support to begin with. And this is the new battle lines that have been drawn and hardened. Okay. And that I don't even care about the minerals in general, that the minerals themselves are not exactly a thing for us to treasure, because virtually everyone that looks at the situation, all the analysts say, like, the rare earth minerals are not necessarily all that bountiful, right? And a lot of them are on the Russian annexed territory anyway. So I think he's just trying to find a managed, negotiated surrender that saves face for America and also stops Ukraine from getting pummeled. That's what I think. He also simultaneously likes Vladimir Putin, obviously, perhaps in a weird way. So he's just looking at the situation and he's just going like, what are you saying? What are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do in this process with or without us. So I think Donald Trump thinks he's giving an olive branch to Ukraine in his mind in this like fucked up way, where he thinks like, I suspect he thinks that he is putting together a managed negotiation that will save face for America by actively undermining Ukraine, I guess, in his mind. I don't think it's correct. And because then he's just like saying Ukraine is the wrong party that was in the wrong and not the wronged party. And we didn't care about it. It was like pure Democratic Party nonsense to begin with. And yeah, he'll get whatever he can in the process. That's what I think. That's what I think Trump is thinking. And he's like, how dare you speak out against me? He's already narcissistic. He's already incredibly thin-skinned. So I think he's just looking at the situation and going like, do you see what the fuck's going on? Bro, have you seen the map of Ukraine's minerals? What are you talking about? I have. What do you mean? We've covered it extensively. I think the most frustrating thing is that Trump has never really been challenged or spoken about the underlying basis for the war. Every single time it comes up, he defers to his dumbass. It would have never happened if I was president bullshit, which doesn't say anything. Yeah, that was why he was so offended when Zelensky was like, no, under your leadership, you know, Vladimir Putin violated the ceasefire agreements, the previous ceasefire agreements as well. That's why he like lost his mind, because it directly contradicts his narrative that Vladimir Putin was afraid of me and he would never dare to violate this ceasefire under my watch. I don't understand why you think Ukraine will bow down to the USA, because there is still, in all of this madness, there is still truth to what Trump is saying in terms of the conditions on the battlefield. There's also truth when Trump says, we hold all the cards. Without us, you have nothing. It's hard to hear and it's fucked up. And especially when you do have all the cards, you should never say that. Powerful people should never actually bully those who have less power than them. But because Donald Trump is a fucking asshole, he just straight up is saying, you know, you got nothing. MAGA Hassan? No, this is not MAGA at all. It is not MAGA to recognize that Ukraine's current issue is not just weapons. Weapons will certainly help, but it's not just weapons, it's beyond that. I've maintained this position already. I've maintained this position for a couple years at this point. But you can't look at the situation in terms of the crisis of manpower in Ukraine when they just don't have enough people to hold the weapons to begin with, and then see it as anything but like a stalemate at this point is possibly better overall. A stalemate, and then most likely some insurgencies that take place within the Russian boundaries, the annexed territories.
Damn, this guy's good.